Yes, I blessed love, you know. Well, the
Yes,
reasoning
sir.
was going to Irie over and Rasta round table precise that program. We say we have another after hours reasoning, you know, we
Yes, sir.
continuing around
Yes.
the general topic, you
So
know.
is this gonna you're gonna record this one, Bridget,
This live
or
right
we live to the public?
yes, yes, I.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But the public will more catch it afterwards still because you don't know when the viewership see what they go check in afterwards, you know. Yeah.
Right,
So it's
right.
just I reasoning. Nobody really watching me right now. Yeah man. Well I'll go in and play back this video for King Ison did send
Mhm.
and we'll go see how it go from there.
Yeah, just go over 2 minutes.
Yeah. So
The cult of Serapis first appears in documentation during the 4th century BC and achieved prominence.
all check all you hear now good?
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
The cult of Serapis first appears in documentation during the 4th century BC and achieved prominence under the rule of the Ptolemies in the 3rd century BC. The origins of the cult lie in the compound worship of Osiris and the Apis bull, which over time became Osiris Apis. The Greek papyrus, Curse of Artemisia, translates Osiris Apis as Osirapis, eventually shortened to Serapis. Speculation surrounds Ptolemy I's introduction of the cult of Serapis. However, a fable mentioned by both Tacitus and Plutarch refers to a prophetic dream experienced by Ptolemy, which led him to send out men to recover a statue of Serapis from Sinope. This would eventually be displayed in the Alexandrian Serapeum, the center of the Serapis cult. Serapis was intended to unite both Greek and Egyptian culture and religion. However, the majority of his portrayals are predominantly Greek in appearance. This particular depiction of Serapis is reminiscent of a Greek intellectual, displaying Hellenistic curly hair and beard. Serapis' anthropomorphic portrayal here adheres to Greek traditional portrayal of gods, whilst it defies the usual animalistic depiction of Egyptian deities. Nevertheless, there is Egyptian attributes Egyptian in nature. The use of a calaphos, or a harvest basket, as a headdress reflects the Egyptian tradition of farming as well as fertility. The pinnacle of the cult of Serapis lasted throughout the 3rd century BC. After this point, its significance began to wane, suffering from decreased patronage by the pharaohs and local hostility from the native Egyptians, who had always perceived Serapis as being more Greek than Egyptian. Despite this, the cult persisted until the 4th century AD, during which time the Serapeum in Alexandria was sacked by a Christian mob in 385 AD.
Yeah man. Yeah. So the I say.
Well, as I say, as you see from the video, he highlight the time that Ptolemy I started the worship or introduced the icon of Serapis. And if you notice, just at the final note day, he come all the way down into AD time, where he say where they did away with the Serapeum. So that's telling you that from 300 BC, 4th century BC, come all the way down into the AD period, this Serapis god was there. I mean, dominant within the empire from them time coming all the way through, all the way through. And if you notice, he highlighting the fact, well, he actually make mention of the fact that the Egyptians and them no me observe the God because they find that he have too much Greek feature. They're not comfortable with that. To me, that speak to the resistance that was going up against this new icon in Serapis from the Egyptian, who accustomed to their own culture and cultural iconography, and you now removing their iconography, and you are putting in this European features thing, this thing with the European feature, and they were refusing to observe this God, to worship this God, and that's the reason why they were persecuted from those time up, from Alexander Ptolemy one time, coming all the way down to Nero, right down to Nero, which was one of the Roman Empire emperor. I think that was the last serious persecution that they go through, because from that time coming down is when Constantine was able to strike the deal, at least according to Walter research, with Sylvester I, which caused a certain amount of these same exterior Coptic Egyptian to then started to observe the new God, the new icon God that was being created under Sylvester's rule. But the reason why I post the video is because the video able to capture some of what I'm saying, in that it is giving evidence that this was a God that was being observed in the empire from the BC time, coming all the way down to even when the Roman overthrew the Greek. This same icon was there.
Yes,
But if you notice, we can't find a lot of information about this icon. It's almost like it's been covered up.
Well, I'm going to read from the Wikipedia, and anybody just feel free to put a pin if they hear anything they want to build on, or if they disagree with anything.
Respect.
Serapis is a Greco-Egyptian god, a syncretic deity derived from the worship of the Egyptian Osiris and Apis. Serapis was extensively popularized in the 3rd century BC on the orders of Greek pharaoh Ptolemy I Soter as a means to unify the Greek and Egyptian subjects of the Ptolemaic kingdom. The cultus of Serapis was spread as a matter of deliberate policy by subsequent Ptolemaic kings. Serapis continued to increase in popularity during the Roman Empire, often replacing Osiris as the consort of Isis in the temples outside Egypt. Alongside his Egyptian roots, he gained attributes from other deities, such as tonic powers linked to the Greek Hades and Demeter, and benevolence derived from associations with Dionysus. Dionysus is also a version of Osiris as well. Iconography. Serapis. Iconography. Serapis was depicted as Greek in appearance but with Egyptian trappings, and combined iconography from a great many cults, signifying both abundance and resurrection. The Greeks had little respect for animal-headed figures, and so a Greek-styled anthropomorphic statue was chosen as the idol, and proclaimed as equivalent of the highly popular Apis. It was named Usahapi, that is Osiris Apis, which became Greek Serapis, and was said to be Osiris in full rather than just his ka life force. The cult statue of Serapis that Ptolemy erected in Alexandria enriched the texture of the Serapis conception by portraying him in a combination of both Egyptian and Greek styles. The statue suitably depicted a figure resembling Hades or Pluto, both being kings of the Greek underworld, and was shown enthroned in the Modius, a basket grain on his head. This was a Greek symbol for the land of the dead. He also held a scepter in his hand indicating rulership, with Cerberus, gatekeeper of the underworld, resting at his feet. Cerberus a kind of demon thing. The statue also had what appeared to be a serpent at its base, fitting the Egyptian symbol of rulership, the uraeus. and you go through Serapis cult history. We go skip over the etymology of the word and go to the cult history. There's evidence that the cult of Serapis existed before the Ptolemies came to power in Alexandria. A temple of Serapis in Egypt is mentioned in 323 BC by both Plutarch and Arrian. So you see it have a next Arrian from such time too. A few ago got clicking on the Arrian. That the Arrian where you're talking about,
Yeah.
Rasizer?
Yes, I. And they say
Okay.
he was born 180 between 180 and 180 and 190 AD, according to that what I read.
Right.
But that then would be that would be an anachron.
Como.
Earlier.
Yeah, interesting. Back up for a bit there and restate what you say about Serapis being in existence before. Let me hear that part.
Alright, it said there's evidence that the cult of
Mm-hmm.
Serapis existed before the Ptolemies came to power in Alexandria. A temple of Serapis in Egypt is mentioned in 323 BC by both Plutarch and Arrian.
But that's the
But
time.
I also thought about that, but what they're
But that's
saying
the
is
time of
it sound like it
Alexander the
close
Great.
because that would still be 10 years after Alexander if we say in Alexander 332. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
would still be like a 9 years into the Greek thing. So I don't know if the person trying to say, well, it might have been too fast that they build up a thing, but it's still possible that they might have built that up within a 9-year time. So
You
you
see,
know what I'm saying?
Bridget?
Yeah, because it now make no sense that there would be a Serapis culture before the Ptolemies.
Of course there
No,
was,
no, no.
Bridget.
But the only way it could make any form of sense is if they're trying to say that the ancient Egyptian, which I think might be actually true because Apis is a form of Osiris in the first place, so they might have a Osiris Apis as a happy deity, but then they come with this Greco-Roman image and put on top of the concept, because even in the video we watch here. Watching
Mm-hmm.
watch the video and which part it was like this. If I don't know if you see 'cause some of these things just be AI and things, so you don't directly know if it is that this image relating to that now. But if they say the
Sure.
Uraeus on the crown and this is the crown of Osiris here, this is the double plumed headdress of Asarant.
Mm-hmm.
We see this iconography, and then this is a bull, this Apis bull. And things. So the concept of Osiris has a bull and the virility and all of these things, it come like it is a kind of ancient African thing, but these man come with the Greco-Roman image and making it into look like that now. So we might
Yes,
have to
I.
check
Oh,
into this.
Can I come in, Bridget? Can I
so
come forward?
okay. Sorry, Elder, you go forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, where I said earlier about the different ages, the age is 2,166 years actually. So each age, when you're dealing with time, the Osiris cult, the Osiris age, the age of Osiris, the age of Taurus was from 2000, the age of Osiris ended in 2455, and it went up into 4200 and something. 2166 years back up there. So it's 4200 and something was the age of the bull of Osiris, and then Isis even goes back to 15,000 years. Because it's opposite them in the zodiac. So this thing of keeping time, family, is so important, because this is why you see what we're dealing with there with the bull and the in the time of from 300 to 0 and just into like the first, second century, if it goes that far in. What you're dealing with is something which is anachronistic, is out of place, because it's supposed to be from the age of the lamb going into the age of the fish. I don't know if get the overstanding of how the ages work. That's why you've got the Christ. He's a fisher of men. You know, he's a fisherman. He's to deal with the fish. And David is a shepherd because he's to do with the age of the sheep and the lamb and the goats. And in the age of Osiris, we're dealing with the bull, which is the 2,000 years before. It is the zodiac. You know, the zodiac.
That's interesting, man.
No, that's what we're dealing with. I'll tell you that. So Apis, the Apis bull is out of place. It's out of time. You understand what I mean? I say.
Yeah. I pick up when you mention anachronism.
Yeah, so it's in the wrong place. So that is why it couldn't last, because that is where the so now we're dealing, my brethren, with the Christ and the Antichrist. Yovers, this is where the thing of the Antichrist comes in. This is the power of the Antichrist. And when that was supposed to have occurred, is you see within that power from 300 and Alexander the Great, supposed to be 330. From 330 coming down to 0, in the middle of that time there, we've got the time of the Maccabees. You see, that is what is going on in the Jewish world, right? We've got the time of the Maccabees. So this is the parallel history. And then if we look into the Ethiopian king list, you'll find that we're dealing with the Kandake queens, the African Kandake queens coming into the same period. Because the Kandake queens...
Just to make the point what I was saying, this iconography here, clearly different from this one. You know what I mean?
Show me that one. Oh, you mean that? Yeah.
This is
image.
Asar
Happy. That is the two crowns.
You understand? This is Asar Happy, the African iconography, and then this saying that this representing the same spiritual entity or deity or whatever as this. Something is askew, something is awry.
Yeah, man, that can't be right.
Well, look, I somehow I tend to think, right, that iconography that we're looking at is something that was probably created recently.
What do you mean? You mean the bull and the Apis? You mean the Apis bull?
No, yes, not just the bull, but the whole depiction, because the depiction is not portraying a strictly Egyptian position.
No, yeah, because
it actually is the same thing. The symbolism different, but it's the same energy.
Yeah.
This one here or the other or the statue.
This one and the statue is speaking to the same energy.
It's the same concept of fusing Osiris with the Apis.
Right. Right.
But you see that snake there, brethren? You see that snake there?
But all right. Well,
that might have been created specifically for that icon of Serapis.
Even if it was, the symbolism...
I understand what you say. I understand what you say.
Even if it was made for them, it is still the symbolism in there is giving you the symbolism is giving you. See that snake there? That represents one of the 7 powers, you know. You know, when they talk about the 7 powers around the throne of God, the 7 islands, the 7 poles of the earth, you know, this represents the pole star. That snake represents the pole star, brethren. And the pole star changed in the age of the bull. When the age of the bull was coming to an end, you see, when they say they say Egyptian kingship began 3,100, 3,200 BC with a king called Menes or Nama. They call him Nama, the scorpion king. Menes, they say. There was a pole star change to Kuban from between 3,500 BC and 3,090 BC. It takes 500 500 years for the change to occur, you know. So it was 3,000. So in between that time, it changed. So that is what that is telling you. You see that there, that symbolism? That's what that means. I can tell you. And then from there, when they brought that in the time of the wrong time, that became the power of the Antichrist. The Greco. So this Jesus Christ, who the Romans are dealing with, is the Antichrist. It's coming from this, but there's a Christ and there's an Antichrist. The Christ is the African God. Happy. You know, see how they're using the name Happy? What they call him? What was the name? What they put on there? Something Happy. User Happy. The name Usa Happy. Well, the name Happy is the River Nile, the god of the River Nile. So they're using the River Nile thing there, man. They're adopting it, and the Romans then continued with this adoption. This is where the thing of the Antichrist is. This is and this is what the Arian doctrine and all of this. This is what it's really about, you know. The Antichrist and the Christ. If there's an Antichrist, there's a Christ. So what is the Antichrist? Where are you going to find him? Is in this Serapis. This is where it's at. This is in that time frame, because it's come at the wrong. You see, they've got there. I don't want to go too deep, but I can show the item that 142 BC. You see those Ptolemies, the first Ptolemy. He began to build the temple at Edfu. The Edfu temple. It began construction at 297 BC by the first Ptolemy. Sota. Is it Sota the first one? I think
Sota, yes. Sota. Lagi.
Yeah. Well, that first one, he started to build the temple in 297 BC. And it finished, according to the history, it finished 142 BC. Right? That was the end. That was when it was completed, 142 BC. That is the time of the Maccabean period, what you read in the Maccabees with the Antiochus kings. This is the Ethiopia. This is the other story. You see, everybody's talking about the European story and then saying, "Oh, it's lies." Well, what about the African story? If we can't explain the African story, we have nothing to bring an overstanding to this period if we want to leave the African element out of it. With the African element is the Ethiopian Egyptian, you know, Egypt, call it that, Kemet, Egypt, because the Romans, even down to the time of the Kandake queen, the Romans came down to take out the Kandake queen in Meroe. She repelled the Romans and run them out the land. So they left them alone. They didn't become part of the Roman Empire. The Kandake African queens. Well, that is the lineage of His Majesty. This is the lineage of His Majesty's kingdom. You know, all of them from Menelik I, all of these now, down to the Kandake queens who go up to the 50 AD, which would be the time of Serapis. You've got the Ethiopian thing going on. So what are we challenging? Are we challenging that? Do we know about that? Are we putting that into perspective? Are we bringing this image into the argument? Because once we bring the African element into the argument, I've done this, all of this stuff here, you know, or the Serapis and all of that. It gives you an idea of now of what is the Christ and what is the Antichrist. What ended up in the Council of Nicaea. Because there's two different doctrines. They're dealing with the same kind of thing, but they're dealing with different elements. What they're dealing with is the worship of that power, of that pole star at 3090 BC. I tell you that. And this is where the Antichrist thing comes in. That is into the BC, because I don't know if you want me to explain it to you. I don't know if I'm going too deep, if I could tell you why the Antichrist is right there where it is. I don't-
You go save that one for, and we might touch back forward on it. You know what I mean?
yeah, but
But
I mean, I won't do it
but
now. But I'm just showing the eye. That's where I would like to take it.
right. I'm going and read in a couple. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna start to read this chapter here out of historical origins of Christianity. And same thing. Anybody want to build on a point or anything, you just jump in. The Council of Nicaea 1. Let's begin with the first General Council meeting. The Council of Nicaea 1 325 ABCE, also called the Nicene Council. The purpose of this council was to take the image of Serapis and insert it into the ancient Egyptian divine triad, to make it the son of Osiris, the father in the ancient Egyptian triad, thereby giving it a divine spirit. I would think, even from the it done challenging conventional history, Rases, I don't know if the idea away from the
I'm there, Bridge.
for,
You know, I would say this. I would say this. That is not well. I know that the eye knows that that's not the issue. The issue is the nature of the substance of Christ. Whether he has one nature, that doesn't say anything about that. Whether it has given it a divine spirit. No, that's not.
No, but
this is exactly where inside in the Rasta round table where I was trying to stop it at now, because we had to we had to get past what
We
was
got
the
to work
issue.
this out.
Yeah, it come like we had to agree then on what was the issue of the council about. So
Yeah.
so even from the purpose, this line here, the purpose of this council was to take the image of Serapis and insert it into the ancient Egyptian divine triad, to make it the son of Osiris, the father in the ancient Egyptian triad, is thereby giving it a divine spirit. But I don't
true.
think that in itself is it completely, not completely, but it very different from the theological thing about Father, Son, and co-substantiation and all of these sort of things, right? So from there,
Exactly.
so, right. So that is
Right.
exactly what I'm
Exact.
saying. We
Right.
have to pin down this then. So I soon will you elaborate
Mhm.
on this to help get it out in a
Okay,
way then.
good. Because okay, I believe what we need to appreciate at this point, right, is that given the Greeks are trying to create this icon, right, without having a lot of knowledge about these things, because the Egyptians were the one that have these theosophical knowledge. You understand? They did not know how to create a god by just giving certain attributes and so on, just creating an identity and just lend attributes to it and build a character for it, and through what you call belief, through the process of belief, is like you create that entity. You understand? So for them to get their God, they're trying to follow the same step that the Egyptian followed. The Egyptian had a triune. They had a triad. They had the father, Asa, Osiris, your Isis, and your Horus.
Yeah, but
So they
Bridget,
were
that's not
going,
the same.
basically what they're trying to do is to get their image, their iconographic image, into that triad. That's what, at least according to Walter, that's the original premise of that whole debate with Arius. Because they now sell Arius as a Christian, then the argument shifts. So instead of he's querying about the iconography, he's now querying about the nature, who is equal between son and father and things like that. Now, the point I'm making just to show that there is something kind of funny about that line of reasoning is that if there was a Bible in existence prior to 325, which according to even Ras Ayadanis and so on, there were already Bible around. We have the Septuagint and all kind of different book like that.
Before when?
I am
Before
saying
when? Before when? Bridget,
before 325 AD.
AD. Okay, yeah. Mhm.
All right. Now I'm
Yeah.
saying if there were Bible in existence before 325 AD,
Yeah.
then for Arius to be making an argument about who equal between the Father and the Son, which one greater, it would seem extremely stupid, because the Bible itself and the gospel would have already spoken clearly on those matters.
Well,
Jesus himself tell you what the relationship of himself and his Father.
yeah, Bridget, can
So
I
there
say
would
something?
not need to be any particular ponderance in ecumenical council meeting after ecumenical council meeting to decide on which side is greater and all this kind of funny talk that's going
Yeah,
on.
but Bridget, but Russ, if can I say something?
Yes, I for you. Go through.
Yeah. If the Bible was written, just say it was written in the 1st century. Say it was written, you know, the New Testament. They say, I personally, I'm not saying this, but he said that the New Testament, the first book was Luke, I think, and it was written around 66 AD. That was the first writing, they say, was 66 AD of the New Testament. Now, the Old Testament, which would be Bible or Bibli, it means a collection of writings which put together, you know. So we know that which was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 1940s, that the books of Isaiah and all of those books, biblical books, were in existence. They found them from the Nag Hammadi texts. Well, the Nag Hammadi texts is a lot of New Testament writing as well, you know, the Nag Hammadi text. But there's the Qumran community, you know, the Essenes in the Dead Sea Scrolls is there where they find writings which are ancient, you know, they go back to Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, which is supposed to be 800 BC, right? Let's
know the reason for a bit. Let's go to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Ethiopia have one of the oldest Bible, right?
Yeah.
How early did Ethiopia have their Bible with the Gospels?
Well, it's supposed to be before the 1st century, before the 2nd century, within the 1st century. They're supposed to have the most ancient. They have the most ancient texts, and they've got the Bible. They've got the they've got books which are put together as the New Testament. They have it put together.
Well, I just wanted us to just go step by step for the logic of it, because if Ethiopia now would already have a Bible with what we know, all the books that we know today to be the New Testament in the 1st or 2nd century, then in 325, which is like what? Okay, let's call that 125 years later.
Yeah.
And they're arguing and try to cipher between which one is greater between the Father and the Son and things like that. It would seem weird, because again, the scripture itself already spoke clearly and what the relationship between Jesus and his Father.
You tell me that already, you know, but then I also say that the Bible also saying other things, because remember the Bible not saying one thing, like if it, remember, because there's different books now. So the theology we have in John different from the theology we have in Matthew, and different from Mark and all of these kind of things. Some of them borrowing from the other ones and things. I know if the ideas follow the textual criticism of the New Testament, man. And
I understand that, but I'm specifically speaking to statement that was made by Jesus himself, at least statement that was a tribute to him.
Yeah.
Right. So
where he himself,
even in them
yeah.
state, right? So it come like you saying it has some way he's saying I and the Father are one and certain things like that. But then it have others where he praying to the Father and where he subordinated to and subordinate him own self to the Father, however it is now.
Mhm,
So it come I think it would be a
mhm.
legitimate dispute to say, well, what is he how who really is this the Father just come here or is his son or what? You understand what I'm saying? So the scripture, why that line of reasoning saying, well, the scripture already tell you the perfect doctrine. You can't say that because look how much different Christian people it have right now in the world, or different sects of Christianity, and then other branches and groups of people that read in the same book and deriving different theologies out of it now. You understand? The
Yeah.
Protestant
Okay,
will believe what the Catholic believe and all of that.
okay. Then my question would be, um, what would be? I'm trying to figure what would be the benefit. No, that would not be the right word. What would be the difference, right? What difference would it make if Jesus and the Father? This seems like just academic reason. I don't know what bearing whether Jesus and the Father are one and the same, or whether the Father is a different entity that we worship to. But I understand what the implication of those two things to a regular believer. It seemed like
It have
just academic.
implications.
It just seemed
No,
academical,
no,
just for the
it's
sake
not
of
academic though. Brethren,
talking.
can I come in? Can I come in,
Yeah.
brethren?
Cipher.
Yeah, no, well that's a great question. Is it academic? No. So what we have to do, my brethren, we have to go to
Mhm.
the concept. You know, this is what we're talking about, the concept of Christ. The concept. Where does this come from? Can we go back and find any history of this thing with the nature of God, the link between God and creation? You know, that's what because they say in John, they say God created the Word, and the Word was God. You know what it says in John chapter 1, right? There was the Word,
Mhm.
and the Word became, and the Word was God.
Mhm.
Well, the Word. So where does that idea come from? The Word, what they call in the Greek, is the logos, right? The speech, the Word. So there's the Creator, who then, with his intelligence, utters the Word to create his Son, who is the Word. That's the idea. You know, that's the idea. What they're saying in John
Mhm.
chapter 1, right? Well, if we go now into the if we go to the Shabaka Stone, you have the Shabaka Stone, brethren. It's in the British Library, in the British Museum.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I heard of it.
Right. It's like a zodiac. It's got a picture of a zodiac on the front of it, and on the back of it, it's got a creation story. In that creation story, it
Yes.
tells you that Ptah, an atom, Ptah is the creator. Ptah is the month of June. Or Levi, you know, in a 12 tribe talk, it's Levi. Is it June? What happens in June is the month of the solstice, you know. So that's where time begins. This is where things begin. That's why Ptah is of that region. He's from that Cancer. You see how we were talking about the fish and the lamb and then the bull, and then there's the scarab beetle in an ancient Kemet, right? Well, that is Levi. So
All right, well, I want to read this thing here on Christology. It's talking about Christology. In Christianity, Christology, which is Christos and Logia put together, translated from Greek as the study of Christ, is a branch of theology that concerns Jesus. Different denominations have different opinions on questions such as whether Jesus was human, divine, or both, and as Messiah, what his role would be in the freeing of the Jewish people from foreign rulers, or in the prophesied kingdom of God, and in the salvation from what would otherwise be the consequences of sin. The earliest Christian writings give several titles to Jesus, such as Son of Man, Son of God, Messiah, and Kyrios, which were all derived from Hebrew scripture. So these terms centered around two opposing themes, namely Jesus as a pre-existent figure who becomes human and then returns to God, versus adoptionism, that Jesus was human who was adopted by God at his baptism, crucifixion, or resurrection. So well them have it like if it have two main things, but um Arias and them argument as far as the traditional thing is both within the first version of this. They was arguing in it like both of them was saying it had this pre-existent entity that created the word what they call the world call the logos now. But then they trying to say if the logos is lesser or was begotten, was created by the greatest God then, and then through the logos the world was created. So you know what I'm saying? So it's saying here, from the 2nd to the 5th centuries, the relation of the human and divine nature of Christ. From the 2nd to the 5th century, so this is the same late antiquity period what we're talking about right now. The relation of the human and divine nature of Christ was a major focus of debates in the early church and at the first 7 ecumenical councils. The Council of Chalcedon in 451 issued a formulation of the hypostatic union. That is one of the main things too, of the two natures of Christ, one human and one divine, united with neither confusion nor division. Most of the major branches of Western Christianity and Eastern Orthodoxy subscribe to this formulation, while many branches of Oriental Orthodox churches reject it, subscribing to Miaphysitism. Right, so I feel we could pause there.
Well, that's
But
his
yeah,
majesty. That's his
it's
majesty.
a
But
holy command.
notice and Como,
Yeah.
note well that the question of human and divine keep coming up as a question. And this is the reason why, and I think about 2 programs ago, I asked a question a round table. Can we imagine, knowing what we know now, and what the generation after we will know and so on going down, can you imagine we sitting in ecumenical council meeting discussing whether Selassie I have on human nature or not?
It's not
It
that's
seemed
what I think
very,
is
it seemed very weird.
That's not
it's
it.
not
That's
It
it's
not
not
seemed
it.
very
that
That's
is
weird.
the
If the
question.
character is
That's,
historical, it
that's
is
all right,
very,
no.
very
Let me
weird to
answer.
make such an argument.
Let me answer. I believe that is not
Mm.
the question. You it come like me and you hearing what being said there and having two different comprehension of it, because I don't think there's no dispute about the humor. They wasn't trying to discuss if the man was a historical character. All of them believe that he was a historical character, and they're trying to ascribe. They're trying to wonder if it is when he was baptized, if the Holy Spirit is what adopt, like what that adoption is viewed is if he get inherited into the Son of God, or if he was a divine angel from pre-existent or divine spiritual entity, the Son that come in and incarnate into the world and all of these kind of things. So it's not. It wasn't never about if the man is a human, if it was a human. To me, in my understanding, right? So I feel that is where it have a difference now, you know.
yeah, I agree with you,
Same.
Madrid. I agree with you.
Well, you see, if you're gonna have a query about divine nature and human nature, once you have a question along them line, then you know what I mean.
I understand
How
what
you
you're saying,
how,
but
how, how you understand them questioning whether you have a demon, because the diaphysetic says he has two
mhm,
natures. He has a divine and a human nature, right?
yeah.
The monophysite is saying no. he have one nature. They're contending that when the person become divine, the whole entity become divine. So the human nature is, in a matter of speaking, nullified, so to speak, morph into something different.
Well, brethren,
So it no longer can be, I guess, they would associate the term human nature with carnality then. So the monophysites are saying, no. You don't have that. The nature of the whole entity now become divine by virtue of the shift in consciousness.
and the baptism. Without the baptism, there is no third birth. The human is separate. The God is separated from man. This is the point.
Well,
I as Rastafari.
again,
Hold on. I as Rastafari. If we are saying as Rastafari that His Majesty is divine, so let's look at the end. Let's look at the end result. Here we have our divine King, as far as I is concerned, because if you're Rastafari, His Majesty Kadamari Haile Selassie is the Almighty. He is divine. That is the reasoning of Rastafari. If you don't believe His Majesty is divine, you are not a Rastafari. You may.
How do you know that he is divine?
I know he's divine by his birth, because they said that a star would be born out of Jacob. And when that star is born, he was prophesied from Balaam in the Bible, who came who is from the line of Melchizedek. So
yeah, but what if let's just go hypothetical for a while. What if all that was a lie?
what?
It was just a story. What if all that, when I say, hear me out. What if the things that they are attributing to him was a lie? How would you know if he's divine?
Because I know when he was born. And I know he's the star that was to be born. It is him. This is him. I know that. He's not. I don't believe that. Brethren, I don't believe this, I know it. This is the.
No, hold on. I'm being a bit of a devil advocate here.
Don't be a devil. Be an angel. Don't come with no devil advocate, brethren. Be an angel.
Respect. All right, I'm just to do this for the sake of provoking thoughts, right?
Yeah.
right.
Because one of the things, as we talk about new faculty, right, of interpretation, these are some of the works we're going to have to do going forward, where the evolution of Rastafari, the levity, the spiritual and religious concept of Rastafari, it has to grow, it has to develop. Because you see, for His Majesty is not divine because the Bible says so. He's not divine because he is said to be descended from King David and King Solomon.
Yeah, but
I know his divinity. I know His Majesty divinity because I understand my nature. And I know that he's a human being like me.
Yeah, but he's divine.
So that's the surest way for me to know that this person or any other person is divine, is for me to be aligned with my divine self.
Yeah, definitely.
Because anything else is just you buying concepts.
No. No way.
Well, you see what happened there. Something I wanted to bring up it's something what we gonna bring up inside our Rasta round table. Three of who on this thing right now, we had three different ways. It's called epistemic principles, right? The epistemology,
Yeah.
the theory of how
Theory of knowledge.
of knowledge and what is correct knowledge. How you distinguish and discern what is correct knowledge from incorrect knowledge. The three of we had different, and then I think all individual people gonna have some form of variance in the epistemic principle depending on your background, your worldviews, your religion, whatever it is you have, your education, different things, your
Yeah,
experiences in a
yeah,
life and things.
True.
sure.
You understand? So yeah, so it come like Ras Cypher. In his epistemic principle, he uses numerology and astrology and them kind of things there to make observations and come to certain conclusions about things. You understand? Ras Eisen
Mhm.
now come like he using the power of or like his intellect, intuition, and deductive and inferring reasoning kind of thing. I just use that same thing too. I just kind of try to, I just try
Balance
to
it out.
get, but now I don't really, when you say balance it out, what do I mean?
I mean balance between that and actual information that you would research and so on.
Well, I think, I know how
I
to
was just
describe it.
presuming, really, you can go right, but I was just presuming that you balance between what I do and the more academic approach where you actually have literature that you can, use to also support whatever notion or conclusion you would draw.
Yes, I think I put a little bit more emphasis on empirical things
Do you know
and
what I
dates
do too? You know what I do
facts and
too, Bridget?
Respect.
I do too. Yeah, man. I really, I really use empirical evidence, Bridget. With mathematics. That's empirical evidence.
I know, but sometimes sometimes now when you giving your analysis of things, it come like plenty of the matter. It come like a one would have to go and follow up on what you're saying and
Yeah,
thing and
yeah,
to
definitely.
fine because it have
Yeah,
a next thing too. When we're saying they have a kind of principle called falsifiability. You understand? So it come like something that is a way to check the validity of a information then. If it could
yeah,
be
True.
if,
yeah. Well,
if it could be falsified or not. You
yeah. Can I
understand? So
come in? Can I just answer that? You see,
going man.
mathematics cannot be falsified. I don't care what the text says. You see the mathematics? They're either right or they're wrong. And I'll give you an example, right? You know, I said to you about in that image of Serapis, there was a snake there. The image of
Yeah.
that snake gives me a value. It gives me a value of 3,090. 3,03090. That snake, that image of that snake, it gives me a value of 3,090.
How you get that? That's what like a man like me, I want you to tell me how you get that figure for the snake.
Do you want me to tell you? Shall I
Of course.
quickly tell you? I've done it before. You've heard me say it before, but I can quickly say it. But it's got a little bit of mathematics, a little bit deep. The Shabaka stone is a sphere with 11 ribs in the sphere, 11 ribs in it. Those 11 ribs into 26,000, which is a great year, comes to there's 11 of them in there. It comes to 25,993, remainder 7, right? Which is 2,363. 2,363 is the length of one month, one great month of that 26,000 years. 1 month of that 26,000 years, there's 11 months. 1 month of that 26,000 years is 2,363. Write that down, brethren. 2,363. Now, that is the value. Now, there's a number called 4,363. That number is the number of the
Go on,
wall
man.
built by Imhotep, right? It's the wall built by Imhotep in ancient Kemet at Saqqara, Saqqara, Saqqara. And there's a panel with 4,363 panels in it. a wall with 4,363 panels. Where that comes from is, I'll just tell you quickly, that 4,363 is the length of a solar cycle and the stellar cycle, what they call a sidereal cycle. That 4,363, if you take that away from, if you take it away from 25,993, which is the great year, it gives you 21,630. You want to write that down?
It's recording right now. I go check that back.
21,630. Now, we're dealing with the pole stars of the Earth, the times that the pole star changes. So that 21,630 divided by 7, which is the number of the pole stars, it changes in a great year. That's 7. 21,630 divided by 7 comes to 3,090. So that is the length of that cycle, right? Now, how can I check it? How can I check that? I can't share a screen here with you, can I? Can I share? Can you share a screen with me?
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Try press it on your side and let me see if it give me some kind of notice or something.
Hang on. Right. Right. What I've done now, I was just going to look. Is there nothing? Stop cam settings. What's the settings there? Integrated cam. I don't know. I don't know if you can share it. I don't think so.
You need to see along the toolbar there on the bottom. You see something say present. You see in that?
Yeah.
Press on that.
Right. Oh, share screen. Okay. Let me find what I want to share. Let me just find what I want to share first, Bridget.
Yeah, man. You could do that in the meanwhile.
I'll just get this up.
Hypostatic union. I'll read a little thing on this hypostatic union. Hypostatic union. Hypostasis. Well, you're getting through? You're getting through?
Yeah. I just want to show you something. Is it in there?
Yeah. What my son, you have some phone battery?
No, everything just fell. May say something happened on your side. So me just go and re-enter.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know what happened there. Yeah. Yeah. So this hypostatic union, I'll now go in and read something about this.
Yeah, man, go on. I'm just gonna you go on. Right, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. Hypostasis, person, substance, is a technical term in Christian theology employed by mainstream Christology to describe the union of Christ's humanity and divinity in one hypostasis or individual personhood. So we're going to have to click into that first. In the most basic terms, the concept of hypostatic union states that Jesus Christ is both fully God and fully man. He is simultaneously perfect divine and perfectly human, having two complete and distinct natures at once. The Athanasian Creed recognized this doctrine and affirmed its importance by stating, "He is God from the essence of the Father, begotten before time, and he is human from the essence of his mother, born in time. Completely God, completely human, with a rational soul and human flesh. Equal to the Father as regards divinity, less than the Father as regards humanity. Although he is God and human, yet Christ is not two, but he is but one. He is one, however, not by his divinity being turned into flesh, but by God's taking humanity to himself. He is one certainly not by the blending of his essence, but by the unity of his person. For just as one human is both rational soul and flesh, so too is one Christ is both God and human. So that the reasoning of this hypostasis comes in. I look at need to
Right,
inside the hypostasis
and
further.
who pushes this hypostasis? Who is this who's pushing this one?
That is the people from the duophysite.
Right. Okay.
The duophysite had this understanding of the
Right.
hypostasis. But when we go into this
No,
hypostasis where it's saying
but
the
let me ask,
underlying state. Yeah, go through. We'll
but let
touch
me
on this
ask
a
you the
little bit.
question. What do you think the reason would be for them needing to break down and define something like that?
As the same
What
thing,
would be the
it come
what
like
would be the purpose to be able to explain that away? What would be the reason for this?
I would say,
I would think we'll go through sci-fi. Go see what I say after.
yeah, I would say the reason they would be doing that is because it's the it's the origin of the idea. The reason they would be doing it is because it's the origin of the idea, and who bring the origin of the idea. Now, if this idea is a black African idea, which I say it is, these people who are trying to usurp, like how the Greeks came in and usurped the African thing with Serapis, they tried to give their version of it. This is where the problem comes in. This is why there's a problem, is because they're trying to take the African. Oh, what's happening?
Seriously,
You
no.
Knowledge.
see, okay, for me, it's much more deeper, right? Um, let's really deal with things theologically, right? And by that I mean remove all the story that we know about God, right? And just let's think about this entity. When you follow logic and science and then someday, at least you hear it said, let me go from here, that you cannot prove or disprove God, right?
Um,
You,
well, I don't.
you guys ever heard that? You
Yeah, but I
cannot
don't
prove
agree.
there is a God empirically.
I don't. I can. I
Yeah?
can.
A
Wow.
cipher with the numbers, a cipher could prove it, he say.
No,
With
but
the
numbers
mathematics.
don't say anything. Numbers just say numbers.
No, but the birth of His Majesty is the you see the idea of this Bible, is there was to tell of a coming one. They promised that there would be a Christ born through the seed of Abraham, and then it would come true, and it would come through the seed of David. And this root coming through the Bible is all of the prophets are talking about this thing, the coming of this person, the coming of this one man. The
That
coming of
that's
this.
that's religious. That's religious dogma.
Is it
Because
dogma though?
all of this serve one single purpose, all of this religioning serve only one single purpose. To
Which is
bring every single individual that involved with the exercise into an awareness of themselves. That's
right?
all.
Yeah. But what about this person who was supposed to come that has been told, who was told before the Bible, the man that the ancient Kemet people have been expecting, this one, the man who walked the road of creation. This man.
Well, look, well, this is it. What we have done, I asked you a question, I think it was in the roundtable chat group the other day, and I was
Yeah.
asking you if you have made a connection
Between
between these cycles, these movements
yeah.
among the stars and
Yeah.
human events.
Yes. Yes,
Because
I have.
to me, there is a connection. It's something cyclic also
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
I've made it,
human being
Richard.
collectively is going
Yeah,
through, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
the role that His Majesty will play in the same way that you can look up in the astral and you
yeah,
can say, okay, these stars, this eclipse come into being at a particular time.
yeah,
It's the same thing with the revelation of His Majesty.
yes.
But we are not to make the mistake that because His Majesty as a person fulfill that role in the drama of life, that makes him the owner of life itself. He's just another human like us, but he is ascribed or assigned by the universe that supreme role.
Yes, but what is
So
that
when you're
supreme
dealing,
role?
so when we're dealing with God, when we're
Yeah,
dealing with this God thing, it is not
yeah.
a person thing. The person is a symbolic representation of the divine that is within all of us.
Yeah, but the divine that is in that particular why are we calling him divine there? I know we are all divine. I understand that. I perfectly agree with the I. We are all divine. That is what I and I means. We are divine. The I, the God in man, the Tewaida. You know,
But you
Tewaida.
see the divinity of His Majesty different from us?
No, if we become into his divinity, no. If we sign into his divinity, no, we're no different from him. We're his disciples. We are Rastafari. We are the body of him. We are the moving parts of Kadamawi Haile Selassie. We are part of Rastafari. To become Rastafari, we become part of it. And we all have different roles within the body of Rastafari because he is the divine one. So I and I
Yeah,
now, his children, we are this
yeah,
divine
but you
one.
do appreciate, right? That
Yeah,
outside of Rastafari and everything that we're saying about Haile Selassie,
yeah.
that a God exists also, and that
He is
other
the God.
human beings, not Rastas, are
Yeah, yeah.
observing that same universal God.
They are, but they don't know it. We know it. They don't know it. That's the difference. Because they're still, but the spirit that is within Haile Selassie, the spirit, the Menfes Kedus, which is within Haile Selassie, which became on him in his birth and then in his birth and his baptism, and then because that is the Tewaida, the baptism is the link where the man is his divinity. That's what they're saying. If you read the
One of the
doctrine,
things,
they're saying His Majesty is that divinity of the
sorry,
Tewaida faith, the Tewaida faith, the I and I. You're saying you're divine. You personally are saying you're divine. I'm saying I'm divine too. Well, His Majesty is divine. Is His Majesty the same divine as I and I? Yes, but He is the link. He is the generator of this Menfes Kedus, which is the power of the stars, this Holy Spirit, the invisible power. But he is that star. He's born as a star. He says he will be born as a star. There will be a man who represents the star. His Majesty is that person. When they asked the story about Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, and I'm not saying that he isn't a star, but when they say around 2,000 years ago, if they look for something, they say, oh, is it Venus? They're looking for this star of Bethlehem and all of this thing, you know, with them say, oh, they come of Bethlehem and the three kings, and they're looking for this star and all of that. That's allegory. That is allegory. It doesn't mean that he wasn't born within a set space of these stars, but is he the actual star? I say he isn't. Even though he is born supposedly in the birthday of the world, supposedly. You know that 0 degrees, where they say it's BC and AD. That's supposed to be the birthday of the world, you know. That's what it actually represents. And his
One of the
birth is supposed to be with the birthday of the world. So that's why he would have been born at the beginning, you know, supposedly on the 0, around the 0. Whether he was or not, I think he was crucified then, to be truthful. You know, I think he was crucified then. I think he was crucified in 2 AD. It's possible. I've got a theory that I can identify him and say, yeah, he was crucified in 2 AD. You know, there's a 0, I'd say 2 AD. If we put a different timeline on it. Who says we can? Who says we can't? Because Babylon, they've created all this history that we're having, even the history with what you were talking about here, what we're reading about, brethren. I think the I might have said this, Rases, and I think the I might have said before, there's very little information about Arius, or one of the items said it. Or maybe you and Coma Jed, I can't remember. You know, you said there's very little information, writing, which is preserved from Arius. Is that right, brethren?
True. It was said.
Right. Yeah, I think it was the Rases who said that. Yeah. So there's very little writing. So all of this stuff that we are now discussing, we're taking on some old arguments, which is other people's arguments, which are suspect, or if they're not even suspect, they're coming from a certain viewpoint. So if we can come with something which can bring another viewpoint, which could be another chronology, and then see how this fits to that chronology, because we know there was things going on with the other chronology, with the Ethiopian chronology. You understand me, Bridget?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so where it's gone on with that, we can come up with another, or if maybe not say we can, but I know I've got another paradigm which Babylon doesn't use. I know I've got it, you know, because I've deciphered that Shabaka stone, right?
Here it is.
Sorry. Yes, Bridget.
No, I was just about to say, there used to be a certain misunderstanding about the Egyptian, not the Egyptian, but the sun worshipping. Ones used to think that the people who are sun worshippers actually are saying that the sun is God.
Yeah.
When you look at the tradition in the Nile Valley and so on of sun worshipping, that's the way how the Western or Christian mind interpret them as people who are saying that the sun is God. However, the Egyptians and them explain that they understand that something is responsible for creating the sun itself. But they give homage to that entity via the sun, because the sun is the most powerful manifestation of that entity on the earth.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to say this. All the stars that we talk about to refer to His Majesty, and even the person of His Majesty, all of those things also are created. You understand? They are representation of something else. They are not that something else. So when we speak about His Majesty in the terms that we're speaking about, understand very well that we are doing so within a religious context, because we have created a religious system. You understand? We have created a religious system, and we have placed the person of Haile Selassie in a certain position in that system. Right? But not because we can use the sun and the stars and these things to coincide with when His Majesty born. We are to walk away thinking like he as a person is the owner of this whole universe, like, because he is the God itself come in flesh. You see the argument about God coming into flesh? That's a
Yeah.
religious argument. That is not literally so. Because in
Why?
actuality,
Why
in
isn't it?
actuality, the Christ in the story that we say, right, is God come in flesh. The Christ
Yeah.
character is really representative of all of humanity. Because
Yeah.
all of us are word that became flesh.
I
That
agree with
should be
you.
the universal application. So
Yeah.
when we read it in the context of the Bible as if, well, it is the onus, it is the providence of a particular individual. Once we are interpreting it in that way, we are misapplying it.
No, I don't
Because it's
agree.
supposed to apply universally, not to the person. This is the
Yeah, but
reason why His Majesty himself speak the way he speak, and observe a God, and walk and humble himself, and
yeah, but
pray and do everything like what the rest of us do.
you know why, brethren? Because it says when he comes, when the comforter comes, this is in John chapter 3, verse 16. When the comforter comes, or 16 verse 3, one of the two, I can't remember which way. 3:16, I think. He said, when the comforter comes, he will not speak of himself, but he will speak of him who came before him. So it is natural that his majesty must recognize the one who came before him, because he's come through a lineage. You know, he's come through that divine line. And that
But
divine line,
the Muslims has used that same piece of scripture to and in their theology they say that is Muhammad comforter is, and the Christians has used that same piece of scripture to say that the comforter is the Holy Spirit. And you know
yes,
the
but
idea
we're
about
Yep.
saying, but the Holy Spirit has come flesh in his majesty. And why I say his majesty is this divine being is because, like Rases just said about the star and the sun. The sun is the power. Well, also for the sun is a star, but the sun conjuncts with the star conjuncts with another. The sun conjuncts with a star, and that star crosses the ecliptic path of the sun at a certain time. And when that star it crosses the ecliptic path of the sun at a certain time of the year, and then after it touches the ecliptic path of the sun rises and comes out. That is where this star is generating, it is sparking. It is the spark to make the sun rise at that particular time. When that happens, that is when the River Nile floods. When the River Nile floods, that is the Mother Earth giving birth to the God Happy. It happens annually, and it moves across the time, across the calendar. But every 1,461 years, it comes back to the same period where it began. And that period is between the 20th and the 25th of July. That is His Majesty's birthday on the 23rd, right in the middle of it. The perfect balance in the middle of the 20th and 25th of July is His Majesty's Earthstra. So His Majesty is that spark which makes the sun rise on that day and which makes the River Nile flood, which makes His Majesty the God Happy. Is something gone wrong with you? Is something gone wrong with you with the program? Can you hear me?
For me, I'm on.
Oh no, I'm just
No,
asking if
I'm
any.
here.
Yeah, I couldn't see anybody, so I just, I was just checking that everything was still running properly. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I was saying, so that is that astronomical event, which is the finding of the true cross. You see that finding of the true cross? You heard of the finding of the true cross in Ethiopia, which is a Christian festival. Well, that represents that astronomical event that His Majesty every 1461 years comes round and occurs on His Majesty's Earthstrom within, a couple of days of it, because it's the time, it's a cycle. It flows in and out. Time doesn't just come, bang, I'm coming this day. It will come, it will flow into it, it will flow out of it. That's why it's a 5-day period. But and the central part of that 5 days is His Majesty's Earthstrom. So that His Majesty is not a religious belief, brethren. His Majesty is an astronomical part of the universe. This King of Kings.
But every one of us is represented in the stars. You know this, right?
Yes, every one of us has a star. But you see, that star which generates the sun to rise on the ecliptic path of the sun at that particular time. That particular star is called the Sirius star. When that happens, that gives birth to the sun. So His Majesty is that. That is
this I will agree. This I will definitely agree with it. I'm a Rastaman anyway. That His Majesty's person in our revelation is a phenom. Just like that occurrence with the stars you describe is a phenom in nature.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You understand? So I do agree that His Majesty is a phenom.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make, whenever you start talking about God, this is the reason why you have primordial question. There's a saying in theology that the Creator transcends His creation. Meaning, if I create a phone, a cell phone, the cell phone is something totally different from me. You can say that I am in the cell phone by way of, all of the ideas and description and everything about the phone, I am the one that put them there. But yet still, the phone is a different entity altogether than me that make the phone.
Yes.
Now, if His Majesty's person and the stars and everything that we're referring to are created things, then that means they are separate from that which created them.
No. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Even though it sounds like it, but in ancient Kemet, the idea of Ptah, I didn't even get to finish it off. Ptah gives birth to atom, right? Ptah gives birth to atom. They are one. According to ancient Kemet, they are one. I can tell you why they are one, right? I can show you why they are one. But they are one, and they stay together, right? And if you look in let me see if I can share this. Let me see if I can share this with you, my brethren.
Okay.
No, that's my touch up my appearance. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to. Let me see. I need to. Present. Present. Let me share screen. Let me share screen with you, brethren. Right. Can you see me, brethren?
But I see you, but I'm not seeing your share screen.
Can you see?
We're not seeing it.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we're seeing you, but we're not seeing this screen you're trying to share.
Right. I'm just making all shows there. Audio share. I don't know. I've got something come up in my one, and I can't see. Let me see.
What's saying? What's saying?
I've got a box up here. It says choose what to share with StreamYard.com. It's telling me what to share.
Yes. Press yes.
Yeah, but there is no yes. There's nothing here, Bridget. It's like
It's saying, do you want to share? And then what's saying after that?
No, hang on. Let me cancel that again. Like what I've gone down to is the present, right? Share screen. If I share screen, now it's gone Sheen scaring is easy with 2 monitors. Sheen with a good computer. Right. Share screen. Okay. Now I've got share audio tab, but it hasn't come up. Select a.
Yeah,
Oh,
continue following through.
hang on. I think, yeah. Let me see. Let me just see. Can you see that, Bridget?
No.
No, there's something. I've got a white screen in front of me, but I can't see how to bring up. I can't see how to bring it. I can't do it, Russ. I can't see. I can't see how to bring it up. Oh, the browser has blocked your screen. Click on the icon. Yeah, I don't know what happened, Russ. I don't know what happened here. I can't share it.
Tell me what you wanted to show. Tell me what you wanted to show. I could pull it up on my side.
No, it's on my computer. It's something that I've done on my computer. It's a chart.
Oh.
You know, it's a chart on my yeah. It's a chart, but I can't show you. I can't seem to bring it up for some reason. But anyway, yeah, the how the clock works, how the zodiac works, this clock, how it works is what you're able to interpret time with it, Bridget. And I think that's what all of the thing in all of the Bible and everything is being able to interpret time. And His Majesty is an integral part of the functions of the universe. That is what I'm trying to say. Now, in his autobiography, he calls himself a creature. I don't know if the IDM know that. In his autobiography, in his preface, he calls himself a creature, something created. But Atum, the creator, created Atum in the zodiac. The reason that he created the atom in the zodiac is quite a simple thing. It's astronomical. You know, it's to do with the different signs of the zodiac. How you even said earlier, Rashason, when I was telling you about the time of the bull, the time of the ram, and the time of the fish, the fisher of men, Christ, the time of the ram, which is David, who is the shepherd, and then the time before that is the time of Taurus, Osiris, which is the bull, and then before that is the time of Cancer, which is the crab, which is the creator, which is the time of the solstice, and it's all of this thing. It's all astronomical. It puts all of this to sleep. All of these arguments, it puts them to sleep. It really puts the arguments to sleep, because even though it's when I say it puts the argument to sleep, all of this thing what we're discussing about Arius and the Arianism, and listen, it's such a subject that it split the whole of Ethiopia in two for 130 years. Ethiopia was at war, a civil war, internecine warfare was going on in Ethiopia for 130 years over the same thing we're discussing, right? And what is the issue?
Well, there's a perfect example of how that same Nicene Creed could have been going on. You see what's going on there, I have a completely different theology and a completely different perception of things than Ras Cypher Selassie, and I show I have a completely different from the two items. You understand? So they come like them ecumenical councils was people trying to tell you what right and wrong and what orthodox.
Yeah.
So you understand?
You're right, Anko Madrid. You're perfectly correct, Bridget.
And then they come like the other people who was saying this and that. Like they might have considered the eye a Gnostic, use Gnostic Rastafari. You understand what I'm saying? So they come like the Gnostics and them get suppressed and them kind of thing there until it's only certain books and certain writings will remain in the canon, and
Yes,
we get that shit into apocrypha or deuterocanonical and all of them kind of terms and things. You understand? So
You're
you can
definitely
just say
But
that.
correct.
check what's going on here now, because a lot of what I am reasoning, right?
Mhm.
A lot of where I reason, it is not based on any reference to what scripture has said per se.
Mhm.
I
But
speak out of how I understand it by my own experience. Because to me, nobody can represent me as a God except that them confront the same realities that me confront. Right? Now, if me a human being and me have to deal with the frailty of being a human being and all the rest of it, whoever is going to be a God over me have to also can relate to my nature and the reality that I face. You see?
I would
So
ask you.
go
Can I ask
ahead.
you a question, Russ? Russ, can I ask a
Mhm.
question?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
What? Yeah, I would say then. So when we believe that Kadamawi Haile Selassie is divine. When you're saying Haile Selassie, what are you saying? When you're
What you
saying
mean?
you worship Haile, or not you worship, but you call on Haile Selassie. We call me. I worship. I tell you, I worship Haile Selassie personally. I worship through Haile Selassie. Him is when I say my prayers, he's in mine. That name is in my prayers. Enough everywhere, which way I go. In the Psalms, when I read it, every which way I go, his name is in there. Right? When I see Lord, when I see God, when I see, I don't call him. I don't use the word God. I use Kadamawi. I know his name is Kadamawi Haile Selassie. Right? I know his name, so I use it. I don't use the word God. I use Kadamawi Haile Selassie. But nevertheless, I'm asking the eye. When you're saying you follow Haile Selassie, right? What are you saying? What are you
Let me
saying?
reason it. Let me reason it this way for you. Now, he's a divine king. His
What does
Majesty
that
is a divine king.
what does
Right?
that mean? Hmm.
Huh?
What does that mean? He's the divine king.
Okay, well, I'm going to break that down as we go. So
Yeah,
you get what I mean by a divine king, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now, kingship itself, whether you call it divine or whatever, kingship itself is a
Yeah.
divine institution.
Yeah.
Once you're sitting as a king, you have a divine responsibility.
Hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, a king rule over two fundamental realms because they have the saying in Kemet that there is two persons who sits on the throne each time. The political figure, which are the physical person, who will advocate in the physical world on behalf of the people that he represents. That's the political figure. And then you have the theological concept of the said king, which places him now in the position as being God. In other words, now, that side now is providence over spiritual side of the nature of it. You understand?
Yeah.
Now, His Majesty person symbolically represent the divine that is in me. So that speak to the theological concept of the king where I am concerned, right? But then in our social arena out here, His Majesty now is the God, because he is the one that advocate for the divine principle in the social environment. This is the work that he do in the League of Nations in laying the cornerstone of international morality. You see? So I'm relating to His Majesty. When me walk in the earth and me call for Haile Selassie and me say me advance His Majesty principle and teaching, is the divine order that His Majesty represents for our social environment. But in terms of me having a relationship with the Creator, it really did not require the person of a Haile Selassie, because human being been having experience with the creator before 1892.
Yeah.
You see me?
Yeah, but
So
what
this
about
is the overstanding. This is the overstanding I have when I deal with His Majesty.
yeah.
And that overstanding really come more from the experience that I myself have coming into spiritual realization. Can come from bald head, where my head completely blank about a lot of things that I understand, a level of understanding that I know in. You see? But over time, the understanding and the accumulation of wisdom by faithfully observing the principles that are right in the Bible that bring you into alignment with yourself. That will tell me what the nature of the king is.
Well, isn't that salvation,
This is why
brethren?
I can depart. This is why I can depart in my language from the mainstream narrative that you will find in Rastafari regarding His Majesty. And you would hear me come right out and say, he symbolized the divine. And most people don't talk the symbol thing when they talk about His Majesty. They talk like if that person literally own sun, moon, and star.
Yeah, because that human nature, you see this link between God and man. You know what we say God, the God is the universe. The machination, the intelligence of the universe is what you want to give the name as God. Is the intelligent force of the universe, which makes it all function in time, in synchronicity.
True.
Then there's a link then between God and man. Now, the link between God and man, as you were saying, you have your divine in you and you can see it. You can see your divinity through you've developed. This is what salvation is, brethren. Salvation is to develop your character and your soul and to create this oneness with the eternal soul, right? So now this link between God and man is a tangible occurrence because His Majesty's Earthstrong is in conjunction with this star that causes, is the spark that generates the power of the earth. So this is why His Majesty is this person, because his Earthstrong, his birth is that spark. And like when this Shiloh comes, the scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes, or the what is it between his feet, the foot between his feet, until Shiloh comes. His Majesty is Shiloh because he's come, and everything. The scepter is moved from Judah. We ain't gonna see anybody else on the throne of Ethiopia. May I tell you that? His Majesty the first and the last. When His Majesty wrote his autobiography, he said, I would therefore remind confidently and earnestly all those who are Ethiopian subjects to strive to the best of their ability to study Ethiopia's past from the earliest phases of history, because he has concerns, he is anxious for the state of Ethiopia, which came around after the he wrote that when he was in Bart. So now it was the Babylon system through the Pope and everything gonna go and attack his country and everything. That's what His Majesty wrote. So he said we should go to the earliest phases of history. Why did he tell us to go to the earliest phase of history? Because he's the beginning and the end. He's the first and the last. Him, Majesty, Kadamawi Haile Selassie. He is
no, as the man speak to the cycles, right?
Yeah.
And where His Majesty fall within all of that. I mean, in a difficult to see that they really not gonna have a repeat of that. in a difficult, not unless this can't happen again until the cycle, another go at the cycle again. Somewhere way down in the future. I think the man at one point predicted these dates going forward into the future
Yeah,
based
well, I know
on
when it will be, Russ. The next one, listen, the next time that will happen will be 3060. The year 3060, the next occurrence will happen. He's on His Majesty's Earthstrong. But by
okay,
that
well,
time, but listen, but what's happening in that time from 2590 to that time to 3090, 2590 to 3090, within those 500 years, the pole star, the star that is going to be above the north pole of the earth, which is now called Polaris. And at the time when that snake, what I was showing you about there in the snake, it was the Kurban or Kuban or Kurban. Well,
seeing.
that pole star changed, and then it changed to Polaris, which is there now. But Polaris is going to change between 2590 and 3060, right? Or 2500, sorry, 2590 and 3090 AD. This pole star is going to change to represent, which has been told of for thousands of years, to the Ethiopian king. So His Majesty will be up there on the pole star. That is the one that is coming, the Cepheus, the Ethiopian king. Cepheus represents the Ethiopian king who will sit at the north pole of the star. It's happening, Frederick. His Majesty, when he was crowned in 1930, he said he will reign for 1,000 years, which is 29,030, right? And then it will move again, because His Majesty then will be the North Star, which will be the Ethiopian king called Cephas, and also the occurrence, which is going to be his Earthstrong when it comes round again, will be 3060. So you see, everything is happening, everything is coming together. That Sirius star will spark the sun in 3060, and His Majesty will be that star at the head of the pole. You know, he will be the head of the North Pole, the Cephas star, the constellation that represents the Ethiopian king, whose daughter was Cassiopeia, which is another constellation. So it's real, brethren. If you understand it, it's real. You know, that's I can't say no more than that. It's astronomy. It's science, you know, and it's mathematics. That's how you're able to work it out.
My elder.
Yes, I.
So there is an arrangement of stars that represent the Ethiopian kings as a grouping.
Not as a group, but there's a well, I say there may be. You'd have to ask Priest Isaac that, you know, because there may be, but I know there's one star. You know, there's the Cephas star is a star in a constellation, like the star Kuban, the star Kuban, which was there, was of the constellation called Draco. Draco represents the dragon. Right, Draco represents the dragon. Well, that group of stars that Kuban referred to is the dragon. Then this one now, which is Polaris, is a member of the Ursa Minor, the Little Dipper. You know, like you see the big pan in the sky, like the big saucepan in the sky. That is the Ursa Major. Well, then there's a smaller one. It looks the same, but it's a smaller one. So that one there now, that is called the Little Dipper. And that Little Dipper, the end of that Little Dipper is right there on the point of that pan. You know, see, like a little pan. The point of the pan is right there on top of the North Pole star. You know, is right there. The soul is sitting right there on, and that is going to change, and it's going to be the one that represents the Ethiopian king, who is he's a star within a constellation. You know, he's not
See
just
ya.
one star, but he's a star within a constellation. You know, and that is going to happen. That will happen between 2590 and 3090. So you see, and His Majesty from 1930, they said he would rule for 1,000 years. You know, they said he would rule for 1,000 years. May rule 1,000 years. So this is where the 1,000 years comes to an end, and then he's in space, you know, in place at the North Star, and then that spark which gives birth to the sun is going to happen again at 3060. How do I know that? Because it happened at 1600, 1599. So I can work out 1461 years on there, or you know, when it's going to happen again on His Majesty's birthday. You see, so that is and this is what we're searching for, my brethren. You know, we're searching for the truth. Well, the ancient priests were astronomers. They weren't just people who just read script and tell you this is textual analysis, and it says there's so many eyes in this verse. Before them use the word God, there is I, and then in this verse there's me, and there's 4 me's in that paragraph. There's 4 me's, so that means it means this type of God. Them kind of scientific textual analysis are only what has been given to I and I, you know, and this is how we have the interpretation of the Bible. I'm not into that, brethren. The only thing I can interpret is where I can interpret time, like the prophets in the days of old. They knew about this thing, you know. It's a knowledge. You have to have knowledge of the stars, brethren. You know, like Priest Isaac. I don't know. Hey, I don't know what Priest Isaac knows. Nothing like him. I've got not nowhere near as much knowledge as Priest Isaac. But what I do have, I have the essential workings of how the thing works. And I have the mathematics that makes all of that work. So then I can then evaluate, like I would like to give the eye. You know, when you say to me, Rases, can you give me this? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'd say, I don't know, but I can give you the framework. I can give you the mathematical framework, and then see how you can fit anything you want to fit. How does it fit into that framework? And that framework is coming through African history, the Ethiopian calendar. You see, because everything we're dealing with in this argument, my brethren, is the Greco-Roman record. The Greco-Roman record we're dealing with. However we want to agree with it, disagree with it, it is the framework they've given I and I. So we need to
I respect that, but what I would like to see from the eye still, because I mean, a lot of the time that you talk, I believe I'm missing some fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
And what you reason about.
Yeah.
Because I cannot quite appreciate everything that you're saying simply because I don't have the fundamentals of the discipline that you're speaking to. So this is why I even asked you, I believe I would have asked you this in the roundtable chat group. I asked you, if you are to teach someone who just learning about this from scratch, how would you approach it? That question was to get you to speak to certain fundamental things, so that once I understand those fundamentals, when you get into the more complicated area of the reasoning, I'll be able to follow.
Yeah, I get you.
Because I have the foundation.
Yeah, of
course. But to really follow you without foundation is futile.
No, I know that. And even in this whole platform, that's why I try not to say too much. But I would be, you know, but one thing, Russ, I've written a book, and I'll give the eye the book. You understand? When it's finished, that you can understand that. But I could, if we was on a Zoom, and right now, if I could share a screen with you, which I can't, but if I could share a screen with you, I could easily, when I explain what I'm explaining, and I give you a demonstration, I'll say, look at this diagram, and look at this, look at this, look at this. And so you can then see it, and also you need to write it down, brethren, because it's, you know, it's in my head. the mathematics, I know, I've learned it, right? But you need to write it down, not just because you need to, because it's a record. Like now you can say yes. Once you write it down, you go, yes, you can do simple mathematics. I know the I can do simple mathematics.
Yeah, man.
Right. So if I say to you, right, Russ, write down this number, write down that number, right, and I'll tell you how this fits, why this is happening, why I'm doing this, and I'd love that we come together and we do it, Bridget. Even not on the platform, like we can do this. I can come on Zoom or even
Privately,
like
yeah.
you understand, and we can do it.
I'm gonna
privately.
get, as I say, I'm gonna get round to you because I believe there is a relationship between the movement in the astral and human event.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the only way to explain why certain stars and certain things align with the king birthday and all these things. The only so you can use those stars as some kind of validation of His Majesty being deity or anything like that, is if there is a direct relationship between the movement of those stars and the unfoldment of human events.
Yeah. Well, of course there are.
And that's the part that I want to really fine tune.
And also, Bridget, I could show you why His Majesty was coronated and Emperor Menelik on the 2nd and 3rd of January, 2nd and 3rd of November. I can show you why. I can actually show you this is why. And I can show you where they did it in the ancient times. Even I can show you how the Greeks did it with Serapis, carried Serapis, Isis. You know, Isis, the female of Serapis was Isis, right? They carry Isis from Phoenicia, carry her up to the same temple, what we spoke about, what the Ptolemies built, the temple of Edfu. They carry it up there every year for 14 days from the 19th of from the 20th of 20th of October until the 2nd of November. 14 days they carry that effigy up there of Isis. And when His Majesty was going to be coronated, he put all of his goods in all of his sacred objects that he was going to get baptized, coronated with. They were put for 14 days before the coronation. They were put in the temple, the palace chapel, and then 7 days after that, then they were taken to Georgis Cathedral, and the priests prayed over them for 7 days. 7 priests in 7 corners for 7 days read the Psalms continually. You know, everything is everything, Bridget. You know, and I would love to show the eye, and the reason I want to show the eye is so that I have to share this knowledge, you know, but it's not not everybody can grasp it, my brethren. You know, but where the eye is a scholar, you've already got a foundation. So now when in a scholar, you're a scholar already and you have a foundation, I say, brethren, and I start explaining it to you. I know I'm talking it, but I'm not demonstrating it to the eye. You understand? If I demonstrate it and say, write that down, write that number down, write that number down, so that you then have a record. And once you see it, it's simple. It's not, hey, brethren, it's nothing difficult.
Well, tell you what, perhaps one of the ways that you can assist too is to maybe point us to some of the books that teach you the basics about it as you're coming through.
I could tell you right away. You need to I would buy the Orion Mystery. We tell you about the line, how the stars are lined up to Orion.
That book is by the guy Cheval. What's his name again?
Robert Boval.
Oh, right.
And I would buy Black Athena.
The guy, the powerful Jed.
Listen, man, it's his books that I've used that's given me the knowledge. But the thing I've got an advantage on him is because I'm a Tewaida man. Come through His Majesty's Tewaida. So now I've got more of a, what them can't get, I can get. What they can't get from Ethiopia, they can't get that. True, I'm in the Ethiopian church and come through that line. I've gone where they can't go. but their teaching is them teach me. All of this stuff I know about the astronomy is their books me read to learn it. But then I can
Tell me something, Elder. What country the man from?
Well, he lives in England, but he's from Belgium. He was born in Belgium. He was born in
No,
Belgium.
you. Sorry,
Me?
you.
Where
Yeah.
we born? Here in London.
Yeah.
I'm born in London. I'm Jamaican. My father's Jamaican.
Okay, respect. Come here kind of accent for a while, and me try pinpoint whether at Jamaica, Antigua. I think you say that you spend some time here too, right?
Yeah. I was born. Yeah, I lived out there for a while, you know, in Antigua when I was a young man, you know. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But the point is, my brother, you know, I've been on this quest for, on this quest, what I'm doing, 25 years I've been doing this, you know, brethren. It's not just now, you know, I've been studying this thing for 25 years, you know.
True.
And what really made me study was when I got baptized in the church in 1997, in the Ethiopian church. I got baptized in 1997. And when I was baptized, a brother gave me a copy of the Ethiopian King List, a photocopy out of the back of a book, which His Majesty sent to the West. And I got the liturgy from the Ethiopian church. He gave me a genuine old liturgy from the church, which His Majesty made. And then I'm saying this King List, it must be more than, it can't be just a list. There must be something in it. You understand? And I wanted to then research it. So that then took me into the Orion mystery, Imhotep the African, the origins of the Sphinx. These are all written Bible value, you know, and Black Genesis. And all of those books, they're about the archaeoastronomy, but he's now coming like with the African roots. He ain't going with this thing that is come from Europe and all of that. They say, listen, man, this is black people's thing, that brother there. And he's worked with, you see who he writes with? He writes with a brother called PhD Thomas Brody. He collaborates with people with PhD, you understand, to bring their science into it, you know? But really and truly, Bridget, so there is his work that I use that gave me all of this knowledge. But you see where I've got this extra knowledge is that this Tewaida of faith, the power of the Trinity, that gave me the edge. You see the power of the Trinity because I got to understand it. And then the mathematics, you know, they've got the mathematics. They've got some bits of mathematics, but they haven't got the picture. They don't know how it works, brethren. I'm telling you, as much as they're brilliant, they don't know how it works. I tell you. And what made me find out how it works, brethren? I've deciphered the Shabaka stone. The Shabaka stone is in the British Museum. It was taken from Egypt by this king boy here. This boy was king, not the one there, the grandfather, the son of this brother here. William, his mother, you know, Diana, Princess Diana's son, who is going to be King of England. Her great-grandfather, was one of the British expedition or the British army who beat Napoleon and took the Shabaka stone from Napoleon in 1800 and bring it to England and give it to the British Museum. So that has been there all those years. They don't know what it is, brethren. I tell you, they think they know what it is, but they don't know what it is. But I do. I've deciphered it. Thank Jah Rastafari. Kadamawi Haile Selassie. Give me the power. Give thanks. You know, and that has opened a whole there's a whole new African, yeah, man, that there, you see that there, yeah, where's Rases? Is he still there? You see that there, brethren?
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I'm seeing.
You see, there's 11 ribs in there. You see, there's 11. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? There's 11 ribs in there. You see,
Yeah.
I told you that the great year is 26,000 years. That 11 into 26,000 gives you 2,363. You see
But
this
look
thing
at
in
that
the middle?
inscription. Funny.
You see this square in the middle?
Yeah.
This is the Temple of Isis from 15,000 BC, this year. Right?
What
This
make you
is
say that?
eh?
What make you say that? What make you say that?
because I wish I could share my screen, Bridget. If I could share my screen, I would show you. I can show you all about this. This is what I've deciphered, my brethren. This, and if you
But,
look, there's
but here,
another.
what I'm saying,
Eh?
when you press present and you press share screen and you do all of that, what's the problem?
Right. If I put share screen, I can't select a tab to share. I can't see. Like the box has come up. It says choose what to share with StreamYard.com. This site will be able to see
Yeah.
the context of your screen. Right.
Yeah.
But I can't see like the share button is well, I don't know where I don't know where to get my thing from. I don't know how to get it into here unless I drag. Do I drag it into there? No.
No, man. Right there. You need to read the screen and see what it's telling you.
Yeah, but there's nothing there to read. I've got Microsoft Edge tab, window, entire screen, select a tab
Right.
to
So you
share.
have a second screen? You have a second screen or no?
No.
All right. So you might want to press share the window, and so you click on the window tab,
All right. Yeah. Okay.
right?
But
And
and
then and
all I can see now is the StreamYard Studio, but I can't see my screen. I wonder if I can see WhatsApp. I've got WhatsApp open on my thing, but I can't. And I've also got, the thing I want to share. I've got it on my screen. On my, but I can't bring it up into this square. Choose what you want to share with it. I can't see how to do that.
yes,
You know?
man. Let me see if I can help you out. Yes, go into the share screen. You press the blue thing, say share screen. You press Chrome tab, window, right?
Right. Hang on.
When you say in window, you see in two window, you see in a window below, eh?
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
you in window.
Yeah, I've got a thing. Screen sharing tips. Right. Hang on. Share screen. Window. Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm in window. Yes.
Now click on the window you see in. Click on the image you desktop you see in.
Well, all that is there is look. That's You can see that.
Let me see.
You see
Yes,
anything?
yes, yeah, man. Look
All
you
right.
on
All
your
right.
share.
But that's not what I want to share, right? That is what is on there. But I need to bring something from my taskbar into there. You
Will
see,
you
from my
handle it?
eh?
You can handle it one time. I mean, you can fix it up now because you can share the screen now. You know how to share it now.
Yeah, but how do I get? So what? Do I bring the thing up? And you see, if I bring up the thing from my taskbar, I can't see anything. It takes over my. It takes over my. Oh shit! I've lost you.
No, man. What you have to do is press share screen and then press either if it's a tab or window or the entire screen you want to share.
Yeah, but I can't see the tab. That's what I'm saying, my brethren. Oh, hang on. What's this? Okay. Right. There's something at the bottom here, and I can't see. No, that's that. No. What I can see, I can just see the screen. I can't see my screen on there. I can see your screen. Like I can see your screen, the StreamYard studio. I can see that stream, but I can't see. I can't see. I can't see my screen to bring anything up.
Yeah, man. I
No.
feel they just need to play around with it.
Anyway, Russ, what we will have to do, listen, one day, make we get together, Russ Isa and Russ in Comadrid, if you're interested, and we'll come together and we'll do a Zoom, or something like that, or find a way that I can share this. I don't know why I can't share. It says your browser has blocked your screen. Click the screen icon at your address bar to allow the address, to allow access.
Right.
Then reload.
Yes.
Hold on. Oh, it's blocked the screen, it's saying. It's saying
I
it
think
blocked
I'll
the
be
screen.
blocked. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have to
it seems
take
to
off.
be blocking it, brethren.
Mhm.
But this is the Shabaka stone anyway. And is there another image you see of this, Russ? Go up and you should see another image of it.
The
You
next
know,
one
it's
is
the,
that
it's the back.
one
It's the back of this. There's a back image of this.
Mm-hmm.
There should be another image. There's another image of it.
The backside of it.
Yeah. Let me see. It's not there so far. Go on, keep going. Yeah, see it there? Come down a bit. This is it here.
This
You see that there? Come down. Come down, Bridget. No, go up. Sorry, go up. Yeah, this here. This is it here. This one here. Look, this. You see this here? Where my cursor is? Can you see it? Is the second
I'm not
line.
seeing
The
no,
second line
this
down.
my screen. This my screen. This not your screen.
Okay, listen. We'll go to the second line down. Not this one. That is it, but you can't see that. Go to the next line. No. Go across. It looks like writing. He's on the right now. You've got the Shabaka stone is at the top. Right, you've got it at the top. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth one along. The fifth one along of the top line. Yes. All right. Turn that now. Turn that. Can you spin it? That's the Shabaka stone. You see all that writing there?
Hmm.
I don't know if you can turn it, but that there is the creation story. That's the story of creation, and where you hear about God, the creator, creating the sun with the word. It's written in there about him being the word, the atom. There's the creator, Ptah, and then there's atom. It's written in here. It's the oldest creation story in the world. That is the oldest creation story in the world. There's nothing older than that. Anything in the Bible has come. That is the original story of creation. There, right there. They call it men fight theology or Inebu Hedge. You know how we call His Majesty Lidge? Well, it's Inebu Hedge. It means the
Ras
white wall.
Ison. You there?
Ras
I
Isa.
want to. Yeah.
I don't
Ras
know if he's
Ison.
hearing. I don't know if he's
True.
hearing. Oh.
I wanted to ask you differently about the New Testament thing. What you think? What the ideas this whole the New Testament is really such a late document in history as in the time in Erasmus, or what your research showing with that? Because all these things are serious points, other than the, you know what I'm saying, like, Because it kind of
Yeah,
reviving
well,
the chronology of world events and all of this, you know.
yeah, well, first thing, you know me, when you look at information like the 16 crucified Savior and so on, are the Christ, right? And realize it's pretty much the same story, like our different representation by a different religious culture that will be presenting the story with the own little unique twists and so to it. You know, he really begged for really stop and consider. So when you hear that, at least when you hear Walter reasoning about Desiderius Erasmus, which I researched, right? I researched that, and yeah, that was so. He was hired to write the book, and he called it a new instrument. The instrument prior to the Novum Instrumentum was the work that was done by Jerome, which they claim was a New Testament interpretation. Now,
Well, I
I'm going to tell
also
you why I
researched.
say that it is a claim. When I
What was
read up
saying?
on Ruchelin, Johannes Ruchelin, who is the person that caused Christianity to embrace the theology of Judaism, why they have Old and New Testament come together like a truce in that way. Johannes Ruchelin referred to Jerome's work, right? The same Vulgate. He referred to that as rubbish. Now, me say to myself, well, listen, if Jerome's work, right, was just another interpretation of the Bible, and he had Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and everything as everybody seem to accept. If that is the case, then how can Johannes Ruchelin refer to that work in those derogatory terms? It just not make no sense to me.
Yeah, but there's nothing
It would
to stop
seem to me that whatever theological work Jerome would have done as something representing some kind of religious literature for the early budding faith of Christianity, that other minds overlooked the work and saw limitation in the work, and this would be the reason why Johannes Ruchelin and them guys now, who come up in a time at the new Renaissance, where learning was heightened, and where the humanist movement and so started. Them guys, they are who actually humanize the mythological stories and them and make them relevant to real human beings. You understand? So when I consider them kind of works there, in a really far-fetched in my mind, that those work would have actually get done by Desiderius Erasmus more in the 14th, 15th century. I'm going to give you one more too. If you research the three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they are referred to as the synoptic gospel. You ever heard that? You ever heard that?
Yes. That means they're all giving the same story.
You understand? When you look at that, it is questionable. The works in them questionable. Some contend that the original book would have been Mark, and they basically just kind of embellish the story along different lines, just make certain difference to it to represent a Matthew and a Luke. So they have all kind of contention. Although in the world of faith, everything is conclusive because people believe and never go about their business with their life. In the world of scholars and people who research these things, then some they're still highly questionable.
Well, Brethren,
as a matter of fact, in the early Renaissance period, I'm going to say this lastly and then I'll let you speak.
Yeah.
In the early Renaissance period, it was fashionable, right, for the writers and them for create then sacred writing and then theological thoughts and ascribe a pseudo name to the writing rather than them own self.
Yeah.
When you read book like the Epistle of Erasmus, because Erasmus there's a book out there called the Epistle of Erasmus. And when you read in the Epistle of Erasmus and you see the ideas expressed in that, and you compare it with the works in them in the gospel, it's like you see the same mind as speak.
So what are you saying? He and he's what, 15th century, 16th century Erasmus?
Yeah, let me tell you what I think. I think sacred writing always existed, right? Even before Erasmus and them. Sacred writing that can move a person closer to the creator. There always were those, thousands of them in the Kemet, in the various cultures. You understand? There were always that. But you see this thing when I use this term Bible, and what our picture in our mind the Bible to be, you see that version of the story? That is something that just started just the other day. And what they have been doing, they have been using the term Bible ambiguously to refer to works that come before Erasmus and them guys' work. And people naturally been coming to the conclusion that because the term Bible was used, they are referring to the same books that we know today to be the Bible. When it was just other sacred writing, not necessarily on Peter and John and Mark and these things.
Yeah, but that's the name that they gave them. But one thing, you see, one thing I would say is that His Majesty, he said there's the Old and the New Testament, there's the old books of the Testament. He said, and there's the new books of the Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And those Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is the 4 pillars of the earth. I don't know if you guys remember that speech you said. He said that they're the 4 pillars of the earth. Well, the 4 pillars of the earth is something that comes out of ancient Kemet, which is north, south, east, and west. And he said that the New Testament and the Old Testament, there's the stories in the Old Testament, there's a continuous story to the New Testament. He said, and for that reason, the Bible should not be cut into pieces. You know that saying in Comedred? You know his man?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with that speech.
Yes. So if His Majesty then, who they say was a very masterful scholar in like when you mentioned that John Chrysostom, when you spoke of him earlier on, like I say, His Majesty found that book. His Majesty printed that book. You know, it was lost to humanity, and His Majesty dealt with it and gave it to the world. And His Majesty had studied ancient religions. That's what they said, you know, when the epistologists, you know, we spoke about epistemology earlier on and Comedred. Well, the leader of Christ College, the Doctor of Theology of Christ College, Cambridge, must have been versed in epistemology, wouldn't you say? To be a doctor of the theological school, he must have been one of the disciplines that he mastered would have been epistemology.
I don't know down the curriculum. They must be reading scrolls and things. No?
Yeah, so if he said that about His Majesty, if he said that His Majesty has got more knowledge than all the ancients, more knowledge than all the Orientals. The Orientals are the people like, you know, in the Levant, you know, the Oriental, the churches, Armenia, India, Syria, and Egypt. He said His Majesty has more knowledge than all of them. That's what that man said. if he said that, and he's a man who must have a epistemology under his belt, isn't he? Isn't that telling you something? Would you say, Nkomadred?
Yes, I would. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, you really say that.
so you know, so these are the kind of things which give His Majesty credibility. And then if His Majesty has credibility and His Majesty says that these things are real, and if he says Ethiopia has one of the oldest versions of the Bible, then how do you fit that one in there, my brethren, Rases?
Well, you see, one of the things that we do, and there's a brethren down in Lucia, we call him Wazir, and he always speak about this. The fact that because we tend to not give His Majesty his humanity, we put His Majesty in a position now to get discredited for human works. Because if He is God, then why you need to praise Him up about anything? Anything that He do that is great and wonderful should be expected. He's God. What you expect? Like, you understand? But let me tell you how I look at His Majesty, right? Because I compare different things that His Majesty say at different times to understand who His Majesty be.
Yeah.
There have time that His Majesty speak as a Christian because he's cultured that way.
Yeah.
Me a Rasta. So if you ask me anything about God and how to find God and them kind of story, me can tell you according to the Rasta way. So when His Majesty speak, the way He speak about the Bible and anything Christian, in the way that He talk, I expect that of Him. Because that's His culture. And I also think that if He was a Muslim, He will be speaking in the very same way about his Muslim culture, and so on and so on. Why do I say this? Because when I examine speech, like when he talk about the remarkable unity of spirit between the different religion and them in their tradition, and that the mystic always stood for the brotherhood of all mankind. And so in that speech, what I see is a legitimization, right, of all religion, because he acknowledge all of them to be like a door to spirituality. He say all are spiritual kinsman. So not because he speak the way he speak about Matthew and about the Bible and all that, I am going to take the position that Christianity is the all, is the be all and end all, because Haile Selassie says so. I expect that of him because as a person, that's his culture. And I don't think that is an indication to me as Rasta that me supposed to have a Christian way of thinking. I think that's his culture. I think what's important for me as a Rasta is that I learn the things that I are to learn about self. Because that same journey that them go through in the spirituality, if you put a metaphysical Bible dictionary alongside the Bible, they're going to come to that same conclusion about self, because that's where it leads to. Because everything outside of you, there's a conscious representation inside of you. Your real journey is really internal, not external. You see it? So for me, there's no conflict. I don't have to be a Rasta. His Majesty don't have to have dreadlocks. He just have to be a person that recognizes himself spiritually, because that's the common ground for all human beings. And that's what all our religious culture and then created for help us. His Majesty said that in the speech. Religion was created for help man with the spirituality. But then he said religion become divisive and used as a political tool for power struggle. So you see, originally the idea behind creating religion was to help to move man closer to the creator, for find yourself. Because when you find the creator, you find yourself. You understand? So for me, there's no conflict. Whatever His Majesty say about the Christian Bible and everything, I man personally deduce the value that His Majesty see in the stories and then I assure you. And no matter I believe in the story in them as historical event with Haile Selassie and the lesson that the story in them teach. This is why in one speech he said at all, as in the ancient time, even in a modern day, David will still overcome Goliath. Why say that? Because David is a principle and Goliath is a principle. So any point of time you're there in existence, David will always bring down Goliath because it is a matter of a principle stance. So this is the way I deal with His Majesty. This is why His Majesty now for dreadlocks, enough for burn marijuana and all of that. I always say this. Down in the West here, Christianity didn't come to us as good news. Christianity come to us like trauma. It come on the end of a whip. You see? So the attitude of the Ethiopians towards Christianity, you can't expect that we out in the Caribbean and out in the Americas. Because the book there, when we see that book, we see horror. Because people may sing their hymns while we there in the field of work. And a slave. You see? The people and then that wound we and do we all kind of inhumane things are right in a church, them in there with Bible in their hand. That's not a good thing in our psyche. You understand? So I don't have to me, I make no apology for Rastafari not aligning with Christianity and notwithstanding His Majesty come up in a Christian culture. I man personally not being Christian. This is why I will not go into an Orthodox church and denounce His Majesty and go into this Jesus thing. Like when I see even Orthodox church around here do, then see like them move like them want Rasta to abandon this Selassie argument and account that the emperor himself acknowledges the Christ.
Yeah, Russ.
So as far as them comes in, do what the emperor do.
Yeah,
well, I now follow the emperor. I now follow the emperor as a person. I following him as the symbol of divine truth. So I don't have to be an Ethiopian, for example. I don't have to be a Christian. None of that.
Yeah, Russ, can I come in there?
Respect, power.
Can I come in there? That's very interesting that the eyes in that there, because that's where I am, you see, because I would tell you that I'm Orthodox. I've come through the Orthodox since 1997. I was baptized. That's why my name is Cypher Selassie. That's where we get that name there, you know?
Same.
But, when I say but, the Aria's doctrine, the schism in Ethiopia, if we want to call it a schism, you know, the difference between these two doctrines in Ethiopia cause a problem. But I've written a book on it. I've studied it because one thing, my brethren, the Christianity, what they're teaching in the Ethiopian church, Russ, with this Jesus Christ, they are, when I say this, I have to be careful because I'm a man who loves the church. I tell you the truth. I love the church, but it's not what His Majesty envisaged. When His Majesty made the church autocephalous, you know, when he got it independence from under Rome, it had been under Rome from them time there, from the 4th century. 1600 years. His Majesty brought it from under Rome. Because there's two different doctrines in Ethiopia. The Huliklidet doctrine, the two births, and the three birth doctrine. Three births, Soslidet. It's also called the two birth doctrine is also called Woldekib, and then there's another word for the triple doctrine. I can't remember the word, but there's another expression for that too, and it means the period of grace, or you know, it's something to do with the grace, the birth of grace, or something like that. Yejelij or something like that. I can't remember the name. The birth of grace, anyway. Now that Soslidet doctrine, as far as I know, brethren, His Majesty's people from the Deborah Libanos monastery in Ethiopia. That is where the southern Solomonide kings come from. His Majesty's people, they come from the southern Solomonide kingdom. His great grandfather, Sir Haile Selassie, he was promoted that work there of the Sosplidet, the three birds, because the three birds gives the king his divinity. They called it the doctrine of the knife. The same one with the Huliklidet doctrine, the Woldekib, they called it the doctrine of the knife because it cuts off one of the birds. And when they're cutting off one of the birds, they're cutting away the African kingship, the God in man. Because you see? So this is where His Majesty came into the thing. This is where His Majesty came in. So what I say that to say this. The church is now dealing with a cross between Roman Catholicism and Ethiopian Tewahedo. It's a cross between, but they're dealing with the two birth doctrine. So that's why they run I and I out of the church. Now, personally, the reason His Majesty sent me in the church was to find out this stuff, to get this information. And I've got the information, and I know that His Majesty didn't want to overturn the church. His Majesty made an oath when he took his coronation. He took an oath to uphold the religion of the Orthodox Church in Ethiopia. But so when he received the sword, the safe. That's what my name's Cypher, the sword. Saif is sword. When he received the sword, he took an oath to restore what is corrupt, more or less. He said to restore what is corrupt. He didn't use the word corrupt, but more or less, I'm paraphrasing. Restore what is corrupt, and then establish what is restored. That's one of his oaths, and that's what His Majesty did. He carefully drew his hand out from under the church without upsetting the balance of the church, and drew Ethiopia's hand out the lion's mouth. Very, very delicately. It took him 30 years. He began in 1929 and he finished in 1959. You see, perfect number of Christ, 30 years. Let him take to get the church from under the Roman Coptic Church, because the Coptic Church of Alexandria was established in the Roman times, as we say at the time of Athanasius, which is the Council of Nicaea, and then King Azana accepted Christianity. The story that we've been given is that he accepted Roman Christianity, and Ethiopians church, no Ethiopian was able to be a bishop. All of the clergy in Ethiopia, until His Majesty, until 1929, changed it. you could never have a Ethiopian bishop. They would always be from the Coptic Church of St. Mark in Alexandria, the Egyptian. He had to be an Egyptian. He couldn't be an Ethiopian. So His Majesty, that is what His Majesty came to change, that unjust law, because that unjust law is the unjust law is a product of the two-birth doctrine, where the superiority of these people who come from the northern, these Arab people, like the people of the north, the people who are mixed with Europeans. So that story is not a new thing; it's an old thing. This superiority of these people up in the northern region of the earth, because even I think it was Priest Isaac showed a picture of Moses, and he was a black man. I think it was last week him show up the picture of Moses as a black man, But that story of that Moses as a black man was the Ethiopian Moses, who was in the 4th century, the same 4th century at the time of the Council of Nicaea. That century there, the 4th century. And Abba Moses, his name is Abba Moses. And when you read the story of Abba Moses, he went into Armenia. Well, Armenia is one of the sister churches of Ethiopia now, but Armenia is one of the churches, one of these Oriental churches, which keep the monophysite doctrine. Well, when the story of our Abba Moses went into the church of the Armenians, which is because Armenia was a Christian center. That is the Christian center of the northern hemisphere, as Ethiopia or Egypt was the center in the southern hemisphere. So, or it's not the southern hemisphere, but further down the African continent, it's still the northern hemisphere. But when the Armenians were to accept Abba Moses, they said that he was a thief. He was a black man, an Ethiopian. And the Armenians said he was a thief. And they wouldn't let him join the church. And then after a while, they get out to find out he's all right, and they accepted him. And then, this is a story in the Ethiopian church. You can read it. Look, about Abba Moses of the 4th century. So there was a racist thing going on, right? We have Abba Moses. They were saying he was, and then they found out he was a good man, and they made him a saint or something like that. But the same old story of the black, run down the black people then. So His Majesty came to turn that over. He came to change that, which he did. So in 1929, he brought the first 4 bishops from Egypt. Took 4 Ethiopian bishops to Egypt and had them ordained as bishops. And then it took 30 years to draw them out, slowly draw them out, and then they could have their own abuna. But up until that time, all the abunas were always, even when His Majesty was coronated, it was an Egyptian Coptic abuna who crowned His Majesty, because it was still the same way up until even when His Majesty was crowned. Because he only got 4 bishops first ordained in 1929. That's when he was Negus Teferi. He was the king then. He wasn't the Negus and Negas. He was the Negus, because he was crowned in 1928, and this happened in 1929. So he had the 4 bishops inaugurated. And then, like I say, in 1955 actually, the abuna was appointed in the Church of Ethiopia, and His Majesty gave the church a special maskell, a victory maskell, what they get, and they hid it. It's hidden, because this is the truth of what's going on in the Church of Ethiopia. from the overthrow of His Majesty. They turned it all upside down, back to the old, same old, back to the old two-birth doctrine, where His Majesty, he never made a law that his doctrine of the three-birth doctrine had to go, but he is the literal manifestation, like you called my brethren Rases, the actualization of the three-birth doctrine. He is the actualization, and all of the psalmonic theater of the coronation. You know, that's a psalmonic theater. It was a display. I mean, the symbolism involved in that there, my brethren. If you really get to, there was all kind of things going on. Even today, I was talking to a priest brethren of mine in America, and we were reasoning about he gave 25,000 soldiers some special herb. When he was coronated, he had a special feast, and they were producing honey tej. You know the tej wine. They were producing it at the coronation. They had it there. You know, in that week of the coronation, they had a feast, and a big feast. And His Majesty gave 25,000 soldiers a herb what they use when they're making tej, the honey wine, because it says in the Bible, all in the book of Isaiah, it says that He would give them honey wine, He would give them wine, and He would give them meat. They slaughtered 5,000 cows, and He fed them all, and all of these things. It was a national banquet. All of these things occurred in His Majesty's coronation. So there's so much symbolism in it, because He actually enacted. There was an enactment of the psalmonic theater. You know, like the Psalms was brought to life. His Majesty brought those Psalms to life in that theater of his coronation. But you have to be able to read it into the Bible. Well, I've got a brethren who can do all of that. I can't do it, but he teaches me. He's a great teacher, and he teaches me this information, because he's a man who knows the Bible and he can explain it and interpret it into the actions, the actualization of His Majesty. He can do it. I can't do that.
Sure.
But I can break down into the mathematics, and I can do all of that. That's a different skill that I have. And the I have, Rases, you know,
Sure.
I say you're a sociologist. You know, when I listen to the I, you understand? I can't reason with the I on your subject. You know, you have to teach. You know?
For me, you see, I go on the ground that I know firmest, and the ground that I know firmest is the experience that I have in good coming forward, you know, and that clarify a lot of stuff for me in terms of interpretation, you know, because
Yeah.
I can show you the way I used to interpret certain things at earlier stage, and then how I interpret it now and why and so on.
Yeah.
You see?
Yes, sir.
In the process of finding yourself, coming through Rastafari, if you notice, this thing about you have to know yourself is not new to Rastafari.
No.
This whole know yourself thing, know thyself thing is coming mainstream over late. But from Rasta inception, Rasta been talking about you have to know yourself.
Yes, of course.
But the self that Rasta was referring to, however, was to know yourself as an African. Because you see, that was a response to Marcus Garvey's statement. You see, that if you don't know, if you don't have the knowledge of your past history, you're like when tree without root.
Yeah.
So we set out to find ourselves, to know ourselves by learning about our African self, our ethnicity, our history, that kind of way.
Yeah.
And so that's what know yourself was all about for I from them in time in the inception.
Yes, Russ.
Now
But
that I actually walk through a certain experience and watch myself grow in understanding and all of that, the interpretation to know yourself now is to know where your identity is at between your physical side of your nature and your spiritual side of your nature. And what I find in my experience is that it is my spiritual side of nature is where my identity ought to be at. When you look at may give a quick example of who you really are beyond the persona. Somebody come and ask you, who are you? You most likely make mention of your name and what family you come from, physical things.
yeah,
You understand? But the real you did not have a beginning in time. It was from eternal.
yes,
It is that energy from eternal that animate the body. Because anybody can drop dead within a second now. And nothing tall wrong with none of the organ, but he just dead. So what's missing? It is that energy, that life that can animate the body, all them organ and everything that lie down cold ground. So it is that energy that put warmth in the body and animate it and make it move. This is why when you go to a funeral and they read the rites, they usually say, here lie the remains are the body of, and they make mention of the name.
yeah.
Again, they are saying by the language that the body is the possession of another entity. Hence, here lies the body of that other entity. So all these things, even in the language, is telling you that you are not the body. You are that which possess the body.
Yeah.
You see? And
Which
once you understand that within your own experience, when you go and read scriptures, you will find that you'll get one different understanding about what Jesus is saying and everything like so. Because your own experience teach you what the truth really is.
Yeah.
You see, if we all are gonna get caught up in interpretation, I can go into a million different directions. But if we have an experience, that will clear everything up. Because your experience now will enable you to identify with what is being expressed in the writing.
But what if you say to somebody, who'll tell you that your experience is a subjective experience, it's not objective. So it come like somebody,
what would I would ask, what would be an objective experience?
Objective might be, let me say, like a universal truth or something, like some kind of higher principle then. But like a subjective truth, like, alright, like if somebody get a vision about something, they see they see the auntie will pass on or something along them lines, they come like, or they see Virgin Mary appear to them or something like that.
True.
It could be a result of some kind of psychotic drugs or some kind of episode or something, you know.
Understood.
Or it could be a result of some divine revelation, said speed or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? So it come
True,
like
I understand.
subject.
I understand this, but by your definition, I would describe my position as an objective. Because what I'm relating, right, is what I read from people that are into self-realization, into all kind of different work. Because I can vote for different people from different religious background as being people that are spiritually aware. How?
Yeah.
By the consistency of their truth, by the level of their thoughts, and they can identify me, although I'm a Rasta, and say, this is a guy that know the stuff.
Yeah.
And that speak to a certain universality about the state of consciousness.
Well, that's what His Majesty said. You quoted him earlier on. You know, like
Exactly.
the remarkable similarities in all of these.
Unity, yeah.
But one thing I would ask the Rasai sir, have you ever had a vision of His Majesty?
Yeah, particularly in my earlier time, man.
Yeah. So what is that?
One time, I believe that dream was really triggered by a reading. I read something about His Majesty having a photographic memory.
Mm.
Yeah. And I had a dream, and in the dream, I see a stream of water. You seeing that very clear, like if when me pick you up there, the bat right through the water. Weird enough now me talk about it, the water not even be on the ground kind of way now. Almost like if you gaze out from yourself and it just like a water surround you, like one wall of water, but it like it clear like a glass, like you can look through. Crystal, and my thoughts within the moment them in very, very clear too.
Yeah.
And you know me stay for long. He almost like just something that me touch within myself.
Well, you know,
as a matter of an experience, you know.
You know, His Majesty is the Farai, the name Farai in Arabia, in the Arabian Peninsula, in Yemen. You know, Farai in the language is a place, and it's also a name. You know, a name. It means the God of the living streams. Yeah, the God of the living streams. And also, you know, we're coming into the age of Aquarius, which His Majesty represents. And it says, he shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. And it's you know, the image, what you see in the ancient Kemet and all of them, with a man with two pitchers in his hand with water pouring out of it. I don't know if you've seen it. That's the sign of Aquarius.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it. I'm right against Aquarius, so.
Yeah, well, it says in Numbers 24:7, Numbers in the Bible, it says Numbers 24:7. He said, his kingdom shall be higher than a gag. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. It's the image. Is the image, you know, is the verbal image of that, the verbal description of the image of the man pouring the water out of his buckets. Because that's when he's telling you when he's going to come, in the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius began in 1877. It takes 430 years to go through transit. To go through from one age to the next, it takes 430 years. You've heard me mention it before when I was talking
you mean
about
transition?
Yeah, the transition. Yeah, the transit. Yeah, the transit. The part. You know, the transition from one age to the next takes 430 years. So, from 1877, 430 years will bring you when it would actually be the age of Aquarius is completed. We will be into it, right? Well, His Majesty is that representative, and now the cusp of the age when the actual transition began to change was 1877, right? His Majesty was born in 1883, 1884.
92.
1892.
No, we're talking about the Ethiopian calendar dates.
Right.
1884, because His Majesty was born in July. And 1885, he was born in 1884. 1885 begins in September in the Ethiopian calendar. You know, the new year begins in September in the Ethiopian calendar. So His Majesty was born 2 months before he was born in the 11th month. 2 months before. Sorry, he was born in the 11th month. 2 months before the end of the year. You know, like the 12th month is August, and then the 13th month is Pagome, which goes into September. His Majesty was born in them 65 days. He was born 65 days before the new year. You know, he was, or not 65,
True.
less than that, about 40 days, I think. About 40 days from the new year, he was born, right?
Mhm.
So he was born in 1884. Well, from 1887 to 1884, it's 7 years. So His Majesty was born within 7 years of the cusp of the age, because the Christ would be born on the cusp of the age. Jesus Christus, whenever he was born, they can't put him at the cusp of an age. He wasn't born on the cusp of an age. If you know the age science, you know, I can. These are the things I can show you. His Majesty was
Yeah,
born.
because the story is a mythological sorry, a mythological representation of a time
Truth. Of a
that
truth.
the events weren't being recorded.
Yes.
You see, because if we go by the cycle you're referring to,
Yeah.
and we go in the reverse,
Yeah.
what we know today as history and how history is defined, that subject did not exist back then in the way that we think about it now. Nobody was sitting down and recording events so that they can tell history, so to speak. Most
Yeah,
of
but
what
you
you
say
see even
that.
on the wall of the pyramids are really the lessons that the Egyptians learn in life itself, that they tell
Yes.
out in stories.
Yes, but also they mark time. You see all of the animals that they have you see in the Egyptian, or the pictures on the wall, that they have the crocodile and they have the hippopotamus and they have the giraffe, they have they have all different animals. And the
Yeah,
jackal, you know, the jackal, the dog headed, the dog with the man with the dog
true.
head. Okay, well, every one of those animals, brethren, the anatomy, why they use those animals is for their anatomy. Now, the hippopotamus, she's the mother cow. She also represents Aquarius. Menat. Look at the word Menat and Menen and Menelik, right? In the age of Menat, this is the age of Aquarius. The ancient name of it is Menat, Menelek, Menen. You see? Zemena Mesafent, the age. Zemena, the age. This etymology of the Zemenafent, or the like the Mene, the Mene, the Menin, or the Mena, or the Mina. You know, they say the first man, the first one of the Egyptian thing was means. You know, they say the first king of the Egyptian thing was means. You hear that one? You hear him call
Yeah,
means?
yeah. Yeah, I heard it.
All right, you know, because we're dealing with this same thing, the mene means, menes, means,
So all
menelik.
that, so that mean the history almost is like a story of time.
It is exactly, my brethren. So what I want to say to the eye is exactly that. It's a story of time. We have to understand time, my brethren. And once we understand time, now we can put everything, we can then fit everything around the time. We're not guessing. Babylon is guessing, you know. There's a lot of innuendo and a lot of perhaps this, that, and the other when they make it. You know what I mean? When they're giving us the story. And if it doesn't fit their story, it's mythology. Oh, that doesn't fit the story. Oh, that's mythology. They're talking about because they can't work out how the thing works. So this means men, right? That's the age of Aquarius.
Aquarium.
So His Majesty again is this man pouring the water out of his buckets, and we've got Menelik, Menin, Menat, means, you know, all of these names. The Zemena Mesafent, the age of princes in Ethiopia. Zamena, the same Mena again. So all of this stuff is related. So His Majesty is born into this. Well, can we find the 430 years? Where does the 430 years, how do we know it takes 430 years to transfer through an age? Well, it's astronomical. But also, Ezekiel would tell us that it's 430 years. He would say he laid on his side 390 years for the iniquity of 390 days, 1 year for a day for the iniquity of Israel. Then he laid 40 days on his left-hand side, 1 year for a day for the iniquity of Judah. Add 390 and 40 together and you get 430. It tells you also that Abraham in Galatians chapter 3, it will tell you that Abraham made the promise for 430 years. You know, this number 430 comes up, so it's encoded in there. It's encoded, and you know, it's encoded in the Bible. You over? So, so this is how I interpret things, my brethren. I don't know about scripture too much. I do know scripture, but I'm not really a scripture man. But I use this time to overstand things. And even when we're talking about the thing there, the 300 AD, well, if we look at the 300 BC, we're looking at a perfect balance, aren't we? 323, 325. 323 was the time of the first Ptolemy. So, right? Ptolemy 1.
Yep.
323. Go to
Correct.
0. Go to 0. 323 years to BC from 0 to 0, right? Then go 325 years to the Council of Nicaea. You see it, Bridget? You see the balance? You see something's going on. These people overstand these things. You see these people who overstand these priest astronomers, they understand these things. And all of the kings have astronomers, don't they? Even this queen here in England, you know, she have a royal astronomer royal, you know. Right? They all have the kings and everywhere. They all have their astronomers because they're people who understand the stars, and then they run the system by the stars. And then we throw it out and say, oh, this Christianity, blah, blah. They're working the work. They're working the science. But true, we don't know it. And they work it. They do everything to the science. We have to know the science too, so we can work our own thing. Turn our back on them and do our own thing. We don't have to do nothing with them, you know. We just have to turn around and do our own thing together. We don't have to fight Babylon. Just turn around, and work together. But we need a foundation and a framework to work onto. We can't work on Babylon when it's set for them. You understand? We can't win with them. We can't win with them. However we're going to work in their system, we can't win. We have to fight. We have to be able to turn around. We can't turn around and work unless we have an alternative to work with. You see what I'm saying, my brother? So this alternative, like people like the eye, and then you've got people around you who are mathematicians and economists, and you know we've got educated people in our circles now. We put down the framework. You know, when we first met on the program, and I'm saying to you, who says the Babylon system's right? Who says this dating system is right? You remember I was saying them things?
Yeah, you always were, yeah.
You know, because we got to come with some. But the reason I'm talking like that, my brethren, is because I know the thing. I've actually worked it out. What is majesty? I've worked out what is the power of the Trinity. You see, the power of the Trinity, Russ, is the magnetic field of the earth. What creates the magnetic field of the earth? Not the sun. And the sun, S-U-N and S-O-N is the same thing. The sun is synonymous with the sun. The Son of God who makes that spark fly. You know, His Majesty's earth strong, and the sun, it sparks the sun. His Majesty is that. So that's what we got to work with, and it's the power of the Trinity. We all, oh, what does Haile Selassie mean? Oh, it means the power of the Trinity. What's the power of the Trinity? What is it? That's the question. You have
And
to ask.
Como.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Where we hitting it up? What time it is in your neck of the woods, Elder?
Rasta, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, ja.
Yeah.
Well, we just hit 1 o'clock here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
Russ, I'm gonna go. You're true, Russ. I have to get up to you, know. I have to go get some sleep for real, you know. But I'm glad to reason with the eye for real, though. Love it. You know?
Isis, man, Isis.
Yeah, man. Russ,
Yeah, man.
Likewise.
give thanks, you know. But Russ, make we come together, you know, and make me show you these things. Like, let me show you it, because if I show it to you, I know you'll grasp it like simple. Because it's
Yeah, I would really like to get grasp for it, honestly.
Yeah, but you got me though, right? You get the idea what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, but we'll follow up.
Yeah, you know, if we do some, I actually show it to the item. We can all get together, even if it's 6 of you. I don't mind.